turned 36 on a Tuesday, and my wife forgot to pretend she cared. Not that I expected candles or a cake or some grand gesture of affection. Those things belonged to a different version of our marriage, one that had quietly expired somewhere between year 3 and year 5, like milk left too long in the back of the refrigerator. Ilyra hadn't baked anything since our wedding, and even that was store-bought with our names misspelled in purple frosting. Calder and Ilyra, like we were characters in some discount fantasy novel. But usually she'd at least maintain the performance. A card picked up at the drugstore on the way home, a text during lunch with a cake emoji and a promise to celebrate this weekend. Something to preserve the thin veneer of normalcy that kept us both pretending this marriage was something other than a mutual convenience arrangement. That Tuesday, there was nothing. I'd woken up alone. The sheets on her side of the bed were cold, which meant she'd been gone for at least an hour. No note on the kitchen counter, no message on my phone. Just silence and the faint smell of her perfume lingering in the bathroom. I made coffee, ate toast standing at the counter, checked my email, 3 birthday notifications from various apps and websites, all automated. Nothing from Ilyra. By noon, I'd convinced myself she was planning something. Maybe she'd surprise me at lunch. Maybe she'd come home early with takeout from that Italian place we used to go to before her career consumed every waking hour of her existence. By 3 o'clock, I realized I was being stupid. By 6, I'd stopped checking my phone. I spent the evening the way I spent most evenings lately, on the couch, reading a book I wasn't really absorbing, listening to the apartment settle around me. The building was old enough that it had its own language, creaking pipes, humming radiators, the occasional thud from the neighbors upstairs. Background noise that filled the space where conversation used to be. Ilyra came home at 9:30, her heels announcing her arrival before I saw her. That sharp, rhythmic clicking against the hardwood floor. Click, 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 click. Like a countdown timer ticking towards some inevitable detonation. "Long day?" I asked from the couch, not looking up from my book. "Exhausting," she said, dropping her leather bag by the door with a heavy thud. She still didn't look at me. Her eyes were already somewhere else, somewhere more important. "Albrecht's finalizing the regional director announcements next week. Everything has to be perfect, every single detail." "Right. The promotion." "The promotion," she echoed, finally glancing my way. Her eyes were flat, distracted, like she was looking at furniture instead of her husband. "I've been working toward this for 4 years, Calder. 4 years. Do you have any idea how much pressure I'm under?" I nodded slowly. "I know." "Do you?" Her voice had that edge it got when she was testing me, looking for the slightest hint of resistance so she could turn me into the villain. "Because it feels like you don't. It feels like nobody understands what this means to me." "I understand," I said quietly. She stared at me for another moment, then seemed to decide I wasn't worth the energy. She kicked off her heels and disappeared into the bedroom. I heard the shower start, then the sound of water hitting tile, steady and unchanging. 23 minutes later, I'd counted, because what else was I going to do? The water stopped. When she emerged, she was wrapped in her silk robe, the expensive one she'd bought herself last Christmas. Her hair was twisted up in a towel, and her face had that scrubbed-clean look that made her seem younger, almost vulnerable. Almost. "Did you eat?" she asked, padding into the kitchen. "Leftover pasta." "Good." She sat at the kitchen island and pulled out her phone. The blue light washed over her face, making her look ghostly, distant. "I need to review the presentation again before tomorrow. The slides aren't right. Can you keep the volume down if you're watching something?" "Sure." She didn't say anything else. Didn't ask about my day. Didn't ask if anything interesting had happened. Didn't mention the date. I sat there, book open in my lap, watching her scroll through her phone. Her thumb moved in that mindless upward flick over and over, the universal gesture of someone who's physically present, but mentally somewhere else entirely. After 10 minutes, she stood up and walked back toward the bedroom, phone still in hand. "I'm going to work in bed," she called over her shoulder. "Don't stay up too late." "I won't." The bedroom door closed, not slammed, just closed. A quiet, definitive sound. I waited until I heard the bed creak, until I heard her settle in, until I was certain she wasn't coming back out. Then I stood and stretched, feeling my spine crack in 3 places. My laptop sat on the coffee table where I'd left it that morning, but hers was on the kitchen counter, plugged into the wall. That's when I noticed something. The battery indicator was blinking red. She'd been using it earlier, probably during her lunch break, or in some conference room between meetings, and she'd forgotten to charge it properly. The plug wasn't fully inserted into the socket. Just barely connected, not enough to actually charge the battery. I walked over to fix it. That's all I intended to do. Just push the plug in all the way so she wouldn't wake up tomorrow morning to a flat battery and another reason to be stressed. I picked up the laptop. The screen was still warm. She'd been using it recently, probably right before her shower, and that's when I saw it. The file explorer was still open. Not her usual work folders with their neat, color-coded labels. Something else? Something buried 3 layers deep in a folder structure I'd never seen before. The folder was labeled Archive 2023 Personal. I should have closed it right then. Should have plugged the laptop in properly, walked away, gone to bed, and pretended I'd never seen anything. That would have been the smart thing to do, the safe thing. Instead, I clicked. The folder contained 12 video files. Each one had a date in the file name, formatted the way Ilyra always formatted dates. YYMDD. The most recent was from 2 weeks ago. The oldest was from 8 months back, right around the time she'd started staying late at the office 3 nights a week. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I could still walk away, still close the laptop, still preserve whatever remained of the illusion I'd been living in. But I didn't. I opened the first file. The video started in dim lighting. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust, to make sense of what I was seeing. A hotel room. Not fancy, but not cheap either. Mid-range. The kind of place business travelers use when the company's paying, but not paying that well. I recognized the wallpaper pattern. Vertical stripes in muted beige and cream. Some chain off the interstate, the kind with complimentary breakfast and a pool that nobody uses except screaming children during summer vacations. The camera was positioned on a dresser or nightstand, angled toward the bed. Ilyra was on that bed. She wasn't alone. The man with her was Ronan Ashby, my best friend since college, the guy who'd stood up at our wedding and given a speech about loyalty and friendship that had made half the room cry, the guy who called me every Sunday to complain about his own wife, Malin, and their crumbling mortgage and his soul-crushing job in medical device sales. They weren't talking. I watched for 43 seconds. That's all I could handle. 43 seconds that felt like 43 hours, each frame burning itself into my memory with the precision of a brand. Then I closed the laptop. My hands were steady. That was the first thing I noticed. My hands weren't shaking. They were perfectly, completely steady. My breathing was even. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Calm. Controlled. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a small, detached part of me observed this calmness with curiosity. Shouldn't I be yelling? Shouldn't I be throwing things, breaking furniture, storming into the bedroom and demanding answers? But I didn't feel any of that. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel betrayed. I felt cold, precise, like a machine that had just switched on after years of dormancy. I set the laptop back on the counter exactly where I'd found it, adjusted the charger, plugged it in properly this time, wiped my fingerprints off the surface with the edge of my shirt, even though that was probably unnecessary. Then I walked into the bedroom. Ilyra was under the covers, propped up against 3 pillows, phone in hand. She was frowning at something on the screen, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Your laptop's charging," I said. My voice sounded normal. Maybe too normal. "Thanks," she murmured without looking up. Her thumb continued its upward flick. Scroll, scroll, scroll. I climbed into bed beside her. The mattress dipped under my weight. She didn't move, didn't shift toward me or away from me. Just stayed exactly where she was, occupying her territory while I occupied mine. I stared at the ceiling. There was a small crack up there, near the corner, that I'd been meaning to fix for months. It started thin and then branched out like a river delta, spreading across the plaster in jagged lines. After a while, I spoke. "You know what's funny?" She sighed. Not an annoyed sigh, exactly. More like the sigh of someone who's just been interrupted from something important and is trying to be patient about it. "What?" she asked, still not looking at me. "Today's my birthday." There was a pause. A long one. The kind of silence that stretches out until it becomes uncomfortable, until someone has to break it just to make the discomfort stop. Then she set her phone down on the nightstand, slowly, deliberately, and turned toward me. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I caught the flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt, or maybe just the performance of guilt. With Ilyra, it was hard to tell where the real emotions ended and the calculated responses began. "Oh," she said quietly. "Calder, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot, I know. It's just been so hectic with the promotion." "Yeah." I smiled. It felt strange on my face, like wearing someone else's skin, like I was performing an emotion I no longer felt. "Don't worry about it. It's fine." "It's not fine." She reached out and touched my arm. Her fingers were cold. They always were. I'm your wife. I should have remembered. I should have done something. You've got a lot on your mind. That's not an excuse. It's a reason, though. She looked at me for a long moment, searching my face for something. Anger, maybe. Hurt. Some evidence that I was upset, that she'd actually wounded me. But I kept my expression blank. Neutral. Unreadable. I'll make it up to you, she said finally. I promise. Once this week is over, once the promotion is official, we'll do something nice. Dinner, wherever you want to go. That expensive steakhouse you like. Or we could go away for a weekend. Just the two of us. Sounds great, I said. I mean it, Calder. I know I've been neglecting us. Neglecting you, but it's going to get better. Once I have this position, once I have more control over my schedule, everything's going to be different. I believe you, she smiled. Relieved, like she'd just successfully navigated a potential minefield and made it to the other side intact. Get some sleep. You look tired. I am, I said. She leaned over and kissed me on the forehead. A chaste, perfunctory kiss. The kind you give a child before tucking them in at night. Then she picked up her phone, checked something, and turned off the light. Within minutes, her breathing slowed into the steady rhythm of sleep. She always fell asleep quickly. It was one of the things I used to envy about her, that ability to shut down, to stop thinking, to just drift away into unconsciousness like flipping a switch. I lay there in the darkness, staring at nothing. The crack in the ceiling was invisible now, but I knew it was still there, spreading, growing, getting worse with every passing day. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel anything close to what I thought I should be feeling. I felt something else, something sharper, something colder. I felt patient, because I just realized something important. I had time. And time, in the right hands, was the most dangerous weapon in the world. I had a week until Ilyra's promotion event. 7 days. 168 hours. That was more than enough. I closed my eyes and started making plans. Wednesday morning arrived with the kind of gray light that makes everything look washed out and tired. I woke up before Ilyra, not difficult, since she'd stayed up past midnight working on her laptop, and made coffee in the quiet kitchen. The apartment felt different now, not in any tangible way that I could point to and say, there, that's what changed. The furniture was the same, the walls were the same pale cream they'd always been. The art prints we'd bought at a street fair 3 years ago still hung in their cheap frames. But the air had changed. It was thinner, sharper, like breathing at high altitude where every breath requires a little more effort. I poured coffee into my usual mug, the one with the chipped handle that Ilyra kept saying we should throw away, and sat at the kitchen table. My laptop was already open. I'd left it there the night before, knowing I'd need to start researching as soon as possible. A quick search pulled up the venue for Ilyra's promotion event, the Laurel Room. A banquet hall downtown, tucked between a luxury hotel and an office building that had been converted into condos. Upscale, corporate, the kind of place where people clinked champagne glasses and pretended to enjoy each other's company while secretly calculating how this networking opportunity might advance their careers. I clicked through the venue's website. They had a professional photo gallery showcasing past events. Weddings, corporate galas, award ceremonies. Everything looked expensive and slightly sterile, like a magazine spread for people who valued appearances over substance. Floor plans were available in a downloadable PDF. I saved it to my desktop. A list of amenities scrolled past. Crystal chandeliers, hardwood dance floor, full bar service, customizable lighting packages. And then, near the bottom, state-of-the-art AV system with wireless presentation capabilities, perfect for corporate events and multimedia presentations. I leaned back in my chair and took a sip of coffee. It was already getting cold. Wireless presentation capabilities. Interesting. Behind me, I heard the bedroom door open. Footsteps in the hallway. Ilyra appeared in the kitchen doorway, already dressed for work in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. You're up early, she said, pouring herself coffee. Couldn't sleep. Everything okay? Fine, just thinking. She added cream to her coffee, exactly 2 tablespoons, measured precisely like everything else in her life, and stirred it with a spoon. About what? Nothing important. Work stuff. She nodded, already distracted. I have back-to-back meetings today. Albrecht wants to go over the final details for the event. I probably won't be home until late. No problem. She kissed me on the forehead, the same perfunctory gesture as last night, and grabbed her keys from the bowl by the door. Love you, she said. Love you too, I replied. The door clicked shut. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway, the engine noise fading as she drove away. Then I returned to my laptop. Over the next 2 hours, I compiled everything I could find about the Laurel Room. Reviews from past events, photos from multiple angles, a virtual tour video that some enterprising marketing company had put together. The AV system was the key. Most modern corporate venues used wireless systems that allowed presenters to connect via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Usually there was a password or access code, but those were often written on a small placard near the control panel or shared with event coordinators via email. I made notes, drew diagrams, planned sightlines and timing. By noon, I had a basic framework. Now I just needed to fill in the details. Wednesday afternoon, I went to the office supply store and bought a new USB drive. A simple one, nothing fancy. The kind that could belong to anyone. At home, I opened Ilyra's laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen counter again, and she still hadn't changed her password since we got married. It was our anniversary date, written in numbers. Easy to remember, easy to access. The video files were still there, tucked away in their hidden folder like secrets in a locked drawer. I copied all 12 files onto the USB drive. The progress bar crawled across the screen. 3 minutes. 4. 5. When it finished, I ejected the drive, cleared the transfer history, and closed the laptop. Then I went into my office and got to work. Creating the presentation took longer than I expected. Not because it was technically difficult. I'd used PowerPoint and Keynote enough times in my own job to know the basics. But because I wanted to get the tone exactly right. Too aggressive, and it would look like a vindictive attack. Too subtle, and people might miss the point. I needed something that walked the line between devastating and undeniable. I started with a simple title slide, a celebration of achievement. Then I imported the video clips. Not the full files, that would be too much, too explicit, too easy to dismiss as shock value. Instead, I took short segments. 10 seconds here, 15 seconds there, carefully selected moments that showed enough to be unmistakable, but not so much that they crossed into gratuitous. For each clip, I added a caption. Nothing inflammatory. Just simple, factual statements. Fairmont Hotel, Highway 92, September 14th. Hampton Inn, Airport District, November 3rd. Holiday Express, Exit 47, December 21st. Dates, locations, context. Then I added music. This was the detail that mattered most, the element that would transform the presentation from merely shocking to genuinely disturbing. I chose an upbeat song, something cheerful and innocent, a pop track from a few years ago that had been used in car commercials and family movie trailers. The kind of music that made you think of summer days and road trips and happiness. The contrast would be jarring, sickening even, and that was exactly the point. I saved the presentation to the USB drive and labeled it Laurel Room Final.pptx. Wednesday evening, Ilyra came home at 10:15. "How was your day?" I asked from the couch, where I'd been reading the same page of a novel for the past 30 minutes. "Productive," she said, dropping her bag. "Everything's coming together. Albrecht's really pleased with how the event is shaping up." "That's great." She walked over and sat beside me, which was unusual. Physical proximity wasn't something we did much anymore. "You've been really supportive this week. I appreciate it." "Of course." "No, really. I know I've been distant, preoccupied. But once this is over, once the promotion is official, things will get better, I promise." I looked at her, really looked at her. She seemed sincere. Her eyes were soft, her expression open. Maybe she even believed what she was saying. "I know," I said. She leaned her head against my shoulder. We sat like that for a few minutes, the television playing some show neither of us was watching. Then her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, checked the screen, and stood up. "I need to respond to this," she said. "Work thing." She disappeared into the bedroom. I heard her voice through the door, muffled but animated, talking to someone, laughing at something they said. I turned off the television and went to bed. Thursday morning, I texted Ronan. "Me. Hey man, want to grab a drink this weekend?" He replied within 30 seconds. Ronan always replied fast. It was one of his defining characteristics. That immediate responsiveness, that need to always be connected, always in the loop. "Ronan. Can't. Malin's got me on lockdown. House projects. You know how it is?" "Me? Yeah. No worries." Ronan. "Next week for sure, though. We'll hit that sports bar you like." "Me? Sounds good." I set the phone down and stared at it for a moment. And then next week. Right. Next week, Ronan's life was going to look very different. Thursday afternoon, I drove past the Laurel Room. I didn't go inside. Too risky, too memorable. But I studied the exterior. The loading dock in the back. the service entrance, the parking structure adjacent to the building. I noted the security cameras, their angles, their blind spots. I took photos with my phone, zooming in on details that might matter later. Friday, Ilyra worked from home. She sat up at the kitchen table with her laptop and a stack of papers, her phone on speaker as she conference called with her team. I stayed in my office, door closed, working on my own projects. Or pretending to. Mostly I was listening, paying attention to fragments of conversation that drifted through the walls. Seating chart needs to be adjusted. Albrecht will speak first then. Make sure the projection screen is centered. Details, logistics, the machinery of a career-defining moment grinding into motion. Friday evening, she seemed lighter, less stressed, almost happy. Everything's ready, she said over dinner. Takeout Chinese that I'd picked up on the way home. All the pieces are in place. I just need to get through the weekend and then Monday night happens and everything changes. Nervous? I asked. A little, but mostly excited. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her fingers were warm this time. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I haven't been the easiest person to live with lately. It's fine. It's not, but I appreciate you anyway. We finished dinner, watched a movie neither of us cared about, went to bed at a reasonable hour. Saturday morning, I woke up with a plan fully formed in my mind. Not a new plan, I'd been building it all week, but suddenly crystallized, clear, inevitable. Ilyra spent most of Saturday at the office again, finalizing last-minute details. I spent it alone, reviewing my notes, checking and rechecking the presentation, making sure every element was perfect. Saturday night, she practiced her speech in the bedroom. I could hear her through the door, her voice rising and falling in practiced cadences. Thank you all for being here tonight. This promotion represents not just personal achievement, but a commitment to the values that make this company great. Integrity, excellence, dedication to a vision larger than ourselves. I made dinner. We ate in silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. Sunday was quiet. Ilyra alternated between nervous energy and forced calm. She tried on 3 different outfits, modeling each one for me, asking my opinion. The navy dress, she asked, looks professional. Or the charcoal suit. Also good? Which one says regional director? Both of them. She settled on the navy dress. Classic, conservative, perfect for impressing Albrecht Rowan and his traditional values. Sunday night, she could barely sleep. I felt her tossing and turning beside me, restless and anxious. What if something goes wrong? She whispered into the darkness. Nothing will go wrong, I said. What if Albrecht changes his mind? He won't. What if someone else? Ilyra. I rolled over to face her. You've worked harder than anyone else for this. You've earned it. Stop worrying. She was quiet for a moment. Then, thank you. I needed to hear that. Try to sleep. Big day tomorrow. Yeah, she exhaled slowly. Big day. Eventually, her breathing evened out. She fell asleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours. Monday morning arrived with unexpected sunshine. Ilyra was up before dawn, pacing the apartment, checking her phone every 30 seconds. Do I look okay? She asked for the 5th time, standing in front of the hallway mirror. The navy dress fit her perfectly, professional and polished. You look great, I said. What if the presentation doesn't work? What if the tech fails? It won't. What if... Ilyra. I walked over and put my hands on her shoulders, looking her directly in the eyes. You've got this. Everything is going to be exactly the way you planned it. Stop worrying. She took a deep breath, nodded. You're right. Okay. You're right. She grabbed her bag, checked her reflection one more time, then turned to me. You're still coming tonight, right? To the event? Of course. Good. I want you there. I want you to see this. I want everyone to see us together. I'll be there, I said. She kissed me. Really kissed me, not the perfunctory peck she usually gave. For a moment, pressed against me, she felt like the woman I'd married 7 years ago, before the ambition consumed everything, before the late nights and the emotional distance and the carefully constructed lies. I love you, she said. I love you too. She smiled, a genuine smile, full of hope and excitement, and walked out the door. I stood in the empty apartment, listening to her car start, listening to the engine fade as she drove away. Then I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Saris Wren, Ilyra's younger sister, the one who'd always lived in Ilyra's shadow, the one who'd never been good enough, smart enough, successful enough to earn their parents' approval. I hesitated for just a moment. Once I sent this message, there would be no turning back, no changing my mind, no pretending this was all just a theoretical exercise. But I didn't want to turn back. I wanted to watch Ilyra's perfect world shatter into pieces. I typed out a message. Me? Hey, Saris. I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet today? It's about Ilyra. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Saris. Sure. Coffee at 2? Me. Perfect. Thanks. I set the phone down and sat at the kitchen table. Time to move to the next step. Time to bring someone else into the plan. Time to make sure everything was absolutely perfect for tonight. Because revenge doesn't work if you do it alone. Sometimes you need an ally. And Saris Wren had her own reasons to want to see Ilyra fall. The coffee shop was one of those aggressively trendy places with exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, and a chalkboard menu featuring drinks with names like Honey Lavender Fog and Maple Bourbon Cortado. The kind of place where a regular coffee cost $6 and came with a side of judgment if you asked for cream instead of oat milk. Saris was already waiting when I arrived. She sat in the corner booth. The same booth Ilyra would have chosen if she were here, because the sisters were alike in more ways than either would admit, with her hands wrapped around a ceramic mug. She was looking out the window, watching people pass by on the sidewalk, her expression distant and unreadable. She looked like Ilyra. Same sharp cheekbones, same dark hair, though Saris wore hers shorter, cut in a severe bob that framed her face. Same long fingers, same narrow build, but there was something different about her, a hardness that Ilyra had learned to hide behind corporate professionalism and practiced smiles. Saris's hardness was right there on the surface, visible to anyone who looked. Calder, she said when I slid into the seat across from her. Her voice was neutral, but her eyes were sharp, assessing. You sounded serious on the phone. I am, I said. A server appeared, college-aged, with a nose ring and an eyebrow piercing, and I ordered black coffee. No fancy name, no complicated preparation, just coffee. Saris watched me while we waited, not saying anything, just studying my face like she was trying to read something written there in invisible ink. When the server brought my coffee and left, Saris spoke. This is about Ilyra. Yeah. Is she okay? Physically? Sure. Emotionally? I shrugged. That depends on your definition. Saris's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not concern. Something else. Something that looked almost like anticipation. What did she do this time? Saris asked, her tone carefully neutral. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and set it on the table between us. It sat there, small and innocuous, just a cheap piece of plastic and circuitry that happened to contain enough information to destroy 2 lives. Saris looked at it. What's that? Evidence. Evidence of what? I took a sip of coffee. It was too hot, burned my tongue slightly, but I didn't care. Ilyra's been having an affair. With Ronan Ashby, my best friend. It's been going on for at least 8 months, probably longer. Saris picked up the USB drive, turning it over in her fingers. Her expression remained neutral, but her grip tightened slightly. You're sure? There are videos, I said. 12 of them. Dated. Time-stamped. Hotel rooms, mostly. She kept them in a hidden folder on her laptop. I found them by chance. She set the drive down slowly and deliberately, like she was handling something fragile or dangerous. And you want, what, advice? Permission? Absolution? Information. Her eyebrows rose slightly. About? The promotion event. I know you've been helping with the logistics. You work for the events company they hired. Stellaris events. Yeah. She leaned back in her seat, arms crossed. I've been coordinating some of the setup. Nothing major, mostly decorations and catering oversight. What do you know about Albrecht Rowan? Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because I need to understand what kind of man he is, what his priorities are, what matters to him. Saris was quiet for a long moment, studying me. I could see her mind working, connecting dots, figuring out where this was going. You're planning something, she said finally. I'm planning to show people who my wife really is. At the promotion event. That's right. She uncrossed her arms and leaned forward. Tell me your plan. First, tell me about Albrecht. She sighed. Fine. Albrecht's old money. Like his grandfather founded the company Old Money. He runs it like it's still 1985. Conservative values, family man, big on corporate image and public morality. He gives money to charity, goes to church every Sunday, and expects everyone in leadership to maintain the same squeaky clean reputation. What happens if someone in leadership doesn't maintain that reputation? He cuts them loose, no second chances, no forgiveness. There was a VP 3 years ago who got caught in some minor financial irregularity. Nothing criminal, just questionable judgment, and Albrecht fired him the same day, made an example out of him. So if there was evidence of moral misconduct, he'd react immediately, especially if it happened publicly. Albrecht hates scandal more than anything. It threatens his carefully constructed image of the company as this ethical, family-oriented place. I nodded slowly. And the AV setup at the venue? Wireless projection system. Anyone can connect if they have the access code. It's usually shared with the event coordinator and the venue staff. Do you have the access code? She stared at me for a long moment. What exactly are you planning, Calder? I met her eyes. I'm planning to make sure Ilyra's achievement celebration turns into something she'll never forget. I'm planning to show everyone, Albrecht, her colleagues, her team, everyone who thinks she's this perfect, driven, ethical leader, exactly what she does when nobody's watching. You want to play the videos. Selected clips, nothing gratuitous, just enough to make the point undeniable. In front of everyone. In front of everyone. Sarah sat back again. She picked up her coffee mug, took a long sip, then set it down. Her expression had changed. The careful neutrality was gone, replaced by something harder, something that looked almost like satisfaction. You know she'll come after you for this, she said. Let her. She'll try to destroy you, make you look like the villain, spin it so she's the victim. She can try. And Ronan? Him too. His wife will find out. That's the point. Saris was quiet again. I watched her process everything, watched her weigh the consequences, watched her decide. Then she smiled. Not a warm smile, not a friendly one, but a smile nonetheless. I've spent my entire life watching Ilyra get everything she wants, she said quietly. She's always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Our parents worship her, literally worship her. She's the successful daughter, the one who went to the good college and got the good job and married the good husband, no offense. None taken. Meanwhile, I'm the disappointment. The one who went to state school, the one who couldn't hack it in corporate America, the one who ended up working at an events company coordinating flower arrangements and seating charts. Her voice was bitter now, years of resentment bleeding through. Do you know what she said to me last Christmas? She told me I should be grateful she'd helped me get this job, like I owe her for the opportunity to work in her orbit. That sounds like her. Everyone thinks she's perfect. Everyone thinks she's this amazing, driven, inspiring leader. They see the image she projects and they believe it. They don't see what's underneath. No, I said quietly. They don't. But you're going to show them. Yes. She picked up the USB drive again, held it up to the light like she could see through the plastic casing to the data inside. This will ruin her. I know. She'll lose the promotion, probably lose her job. Good. Albrecht won't just fire her. He'll blacklist her. Make sure she can't work anywhere else in the industry. Even better. Saris looked at me for a long moment. Then she tucked the USB drive into her purse. I'll help you. Why? Because she deserves it. Because I'm tired of watching her succeed while treating everyone around her like accessories to her ambition. Because for once, just once, I want to see her face when she realizes she's not untouchable. She paused. And because you didn't deserve what she did to you. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet. If this backfires, we're both screwed. She'll come after both of us. It won't backfire. You sound pretty confident. I am. She finished her coffee and stood up. The event starts at 7. Be there by 6:30. I'll make sure you get in through the service entrance. There's a door on the west side of the building, near the loading dock. It's usually locked, but I'll prop it open at 6:20. Got it. Once you're inside, there's a storage room down the hall from the main event space. You can wait there until it's time. The AV control panel is in the back corner of the room, behind the projection screen. I'll text you the access code an hour before the event. Perfect. How long do you need? 5 minutes, maybe less. I'll create a distraction. Pull the event coordinator away with some fake emergency. That should give you enough time to connect and queue up your presentation. What kind of distraction? Don't worry about it. I'm good at creating chaos when I need to. I nodded. Anything else I should know? Yeah. She looked at me seriously. Once you do this, you can't take it back. You understand that, right? Once those videos play, once everyone sees them, that's it. Your marriage is over. Your friendship with Ronan is over. Everything changes. I know. And you're okay with that? I'm more than okay with it. She studied my face one more time, then nodded. All right. I'll see you tonight. She turned and walked toward the door. Then she stopped and looked back at me. For what it's worth, Calder. I'm sorry. About all of this. You didn't deserve it. No, I said quietly. I didn't. She walked out. I sat there for a few more minutes, staring at the empty seat across from me. The coffee shop buzzed with conversation around me. People talking about work, about relationships, about mundane problems that seemed enormous to them, but were really just noise in the grand scheme of things. My phone buzzed. A text from Ilyra. Ilyra. Final rehearsal going great. Albrecht just told me I'm going to do amazing tonight. I can't believe this is really happening. I stared at the message, at the 3 exclamation points, at the excitement and joy radiating from the screen. Then I typed a response. Me. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Can't wait to see you shine tonight. I hit send and set the phone down. Everything was in place now. The pieces were moving, all the dominoes lined up, ready to fall. All I had to do was wait. Monday afternoon crawled by. I went home, showered, changed into a suit, the charcoal one I wore to weddings and funerals and other occasions where appearances mattered. I checked the presentation one more time, made sure the files were all properly formatted, made sure the music was synced correctly, made sure every caption was spelled right, every date was accurate, every detail was perfect. At 5:30, my phone buzzed. A text from Saris. Saris. Access code is 7739. Service entrance will be open at 6:20. Good luck, I replied with a thumbs up emoji. Then I grabbed the USB drive, put it in my pocket, and walked out the door. The drive downtown took 20 minutes. I parked in the structure adjacent to the Laurel Room, 3 levels up, in a spot with a clear view of the exit. Not because I thought I'd need to make a quick getaway. I wasn't doing anything illegal, but because I wanted options. Always have options. At 6:15, I walked around to the west side of the building. The service entrance was exactly where Saris had described it. A plain metal door with a small window, tucked between 2 dumpsters and a stack of folded banquet tables. At 6:19, I tried the handle. Locked. I waited. At 6:21, the lock clicked. The door opened an inch. I pulled it open and stepped inside. The hallway was narrow and utilitarian, nothing like the elegant spaces visible in the venue's promotional photos. Concrete floors, fluorescent lights, the smell of cleaning products and stale coffee. I found the storage room Saris had mentioned. It was unlocked. Inside were stacks of chairs, folded tablecloths, boxes of centerpieces. I waited. At 6:45, I heard voices in the hallway. People arriving, staff members preparing the space. The low murmur of conversation building as guests began filtering in. At 6:55, my phone buzzed. Saris, distraction in 3 minutes. Move fast. I put the phone away, checked the USB drive in my pocket one more time, took a deep breath. This was it, the point of no return. I opened the storage room door and stepped into the hallway. Nobody saw me. I walked quickly, confidently, like I belonged there. The main event space was ahead, its double doors propped open. I could see inside, round tables covered in white linens, crystal glasses catching the light from chandeliers, people in suits and cocktail dresses mingling with drinks in their hands. And there, near the front, standing next to Albrecht Rowan himself, was Ilyra. She looked radiant, confident, happy. She had no idea what was about to happen. I moved toward the AV control panel, staying close to the walls, keeping out of sight. Almost there, just a few more steps, and then everything would change. The AV control panel was exactly where Saris said it would be, tucked in the back corner of the event space, behind the massive projection screen, partially hidden by a velvet curtain that matched the room's burgundy color scheme. I moved quickly but not frantically. Panic makes people memorable. Confidence makes them invisible. The panel itself was sleek and modern, all touchscreen interfaces and wireless connectivity options. A small placard next to it read, "For technical assistance, contact venue staff." Below that, in smaller print, "Wireless access code, updated weekly." I pulled out my phone and entered the code Saris had sent, 7739. The screen lit up. Connection options appeared. I selected present and waited while it searched for available devices. My phone buzzed. Not a call, a notification, the wireless system requesting permission to connect. I tapped allow. A mirrored image of my phone screen appeared on the control panel. Perfect. Now I just needed to... Excuse me? I froze. The voice came from behind me. Female, young, probably staff. I turned slowly, keeping my expression neutral, almost bored. A woman in her early 20s stood there, wearing the black vest and white shirt that marked her as venue personnel. She held a clipboard and wore an earpiece, the universal uniform of event coordinators everywhere. "Can I help you with something?" she asked. Her tone was polite but firm. This was her territory, and I was an intruder. "Just checking the connection," I said, gesturing to the panel. "I'm presenting later. Wanted to make sure everything works before the program starts." She frowned slightly. "I wasn't told anyone would be accessing the system early. Are you with the company?" "Guest presenter. Surprise element for the promotion announcement." I smiled, the kind of smile that suggested I was supposed to be here, that she was the one who'd missed the memo. "Ilyra Voss asked me to set this up personally. You can check with her if you'd like, but she's pretty busy right now with Albrecht." The mention of both Ilyra's name and Albrecht's did exactly what I'd hoped. The woman's expression shifted from suspicious to uncertain. I don't want to bother Ms. Voss during—" "Probably wise," I said, already turning back to the panel. "I'll just be another minute, testing the audio levels." She hesitated. I could feel her weighing options, trying to decide if stopping me was worth the potential embarrassment of interrupting something legitimate. Then a voice crackled through her earpiece, too faint for me to make out the words, but urgent enough that her attention snapped away from me. "Copy that," she said into her microphone. "On my way." She glanced at me one more time, then hurried off toward the main entrance. I exhaled slowly. That was closer than I'd wanted. I returned to the panel and opened the file manager on my phone. The presentation file was ready, loaded onto my device from the USB drive that morning. I queued it up, set it to autoplay, and adjusted the volume settings. Then I disconnected my phone and cleared the connection history. The entire process took 90 seconds. I stepped back and surveyed the room from this angle. The projection screen dominated the front wall, positioned perfectly so everyone at every table would have a clear view. The sound system's speakers were mounted in each corner. Good coverage, no dead zones. Everything was ready. I slipped back through the curtain and returned to the storage room, closing the door behind me. My heart was pounding now, adrenaline finally catching up with what I'd just done. I sat on a stack of folded chairs and checked my phone. 7:03. The event had officially started. I opened the text thread with Saris. "Me, in position, everything set." Her reply came 30 seconds later. "Saris. Perfect. Program starts at 7:30. Albrecht speaks first. Ilyra's introduction is at 7:45. That's your window. Me? Understood. Saris. I'll be watching. Don't lose your nerve." I didn't respond to that. Just put the phone away and waited. The storage room was quiet. I could hear the muffled sounds of the event through the walls. Laughter, conversation, the clink of glasses, someone testing a microphone, all the normal sounds of a corporate celebration. I thought about Ilyra out there right now, smiling, shaking hands, accepting congratulations from colleagues who thought they knew her, who thought she'd earned this promotion through hard work and dedication. They had no idea, but they would. Soon. Time moves differently when you're waiting for something you can't take back. Each minute felt like an hour. Each sound from the hallway made my pulse spike. At 7:15, I heard someone give a welcome speech. A man's voice, amplified through the sound system, thanking everyone for coming, praising the company's values, building up to the main event. At 7:25, the speech ended to applause. At 7:28, a different voice came through the speakers. Older, authoritative, measured, and careful. Albrecht Rowan. I stood up and moved to the door, cracking it open just enough to hear clearly. "Truly privileged to lead a company built on principles that transcend mere profit," Albrecht was saying. His voice carried that particular cadence of old money, confident without arrogance, powerful without shouting. Integrity, excellence, family values. These aren't just words we put on our website. They're the foundation of everything we do. The audience was silent, attentive. Albrecht commanded that kind of respect. Tonight, we're here to celebrate someone who embodies these principles. Someone who has demonstrated, time and time again, the dedication and ethical leadership that defines our organization. A pause. Strategic. Building anticipation. Please join me in congratulating our new Regional Director of Operations, Ilyra Voss. Applause erupted. Loud, enthusiastic, sustained. I pictured Ilyra standing, smoothing her navy dress, walking to the front of the room with that confident smile she'd perfected over years of corporate events. I pictured her shaking Albrecht's hand, stepping up to the microphone, looking out at the crowd of colleagues and executives and mentors who'd helped her climb this far. I pictured the moment about to come, the moment when everything she'd built would collapse. "Thank you," Ilyra's voice came through the speakers. Even filtered through the sound system, I could hear the emotion in it, the pride, the relief. "Thank you all so much. I honestly don't even know where to begin." Warm laughter from the audience. When I started at this company 6 years ago, I was just another analyst with big dreams and no idea how to achieve them. But I had mentors, she paused, like Albrecht, who saw potential in me and gave me opportunities to grow. I had colleagues who supported me through challenges, and I had a vision of what leadership could be. More applause, supportive murmurs. This promotion isn't just about me. It's about everyone who believed in that vision, everyone who worked late nights, everyone who pushed for excellence, everyone who understood that success isn't individual, it's collective. She was good. I had to give her that. Even knowing what I knew, even having seen what I'd seen, I could hear why people followed her. She knew how to make them feel included, important, part of something larger than themselves. As I step into this role, Ilyra continued, I want to reaffirm my commitment to the values Albrecht mentioned: integrity, excellence, and most importantly, accountability. Because leadership isn't about power, it's about responsibility. It's about being someone others can trust. The irony was almost beautiful. So thank you again to Albrecht, to my team, to my family, especially my husband Calder, who's been incredibly supportive through all of this. My name echoed through the sound system. People probably turned to look for me, probably expected to see me smiling proudly from some table near the front. I checked my phone. 7:46. Time. I pulled out the USB drive and opened the door wider. The hallway was empty now. Everyone was inside the event space, focused on Ilyra's moment. I moved quickly to the AV panel, connected my phone again, opened the presentation file. I promise you all, Ilyra was saying, her voice strong and clear, that I will lead with the same integrity and values that make this company great, that I will never compromise our principles for convenience or personal gain, that I will. I pressed play. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the lights in the event space dimmed slightly, an automatic feature triggered by the presentation software. Then the projection screen flickered to life. The first slide appeared, a celebration of achievement. The cheerful music started playing through the sound system, that upbeat pop song I'd selected, bright and happy and completely wrong for what was about to follow. Ilyra's voice cut off mid-sentence. I could hear the confusion in the room, uncertain murmurs. People probably looking at each other, wondering if this was planned. The second slide appeared. It was a video clip, 10 seconds long, hotel room lighting, 2 people on a bed. The caption read, Fairmont Hotel, Highway 92, September 14th, 2024. The murmuring stopped. Silence dropped over the room like a physical weight. The music kept playing, cheerful and oblivious. Third slide, another clip. Different hotel, same 2 people. Hampton Inn, Airport District, November 3rd, 2024. I could hear someone gasp. Then another voice, louder. Is that... Fourth slide. Holiday Express. Exit 47. December 21st, 2024. The music continued its relentless cheerfulness, creating a surreal dissonance with what everyone was witnessing. Fifth slide, 6th, 7th. Each one a different date, a different location, unmistakable evidence, presented with the dry factuality of a corporate quarterly report. I disconnected my phone and cleared the connection history again. The presentation would continue playing until someone manually stopped it, and based on the shocked silence from the event space, nobody was thinking clearly enough to do that yet. I returned to the storage room and closed the door. Then I sat down and waited. For about 15 seconds, there was nothing but silence and that jarringly upbeat music. Then chaos erupted, voices overlapping, shouting, someone screaming, a woman's voice high and sharp with panic. Probably Ilyra. The music cut off abruptly. More shouting, chairs scraping, the sounds of people moving, rushing, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. I heard Albrecht's voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Everyone remain calm. Clear the room, now. Footsteps in the hallway, running, someone sobbing. I stayed perfectly still, listening to the destruction of Ilyra's career unfold in real time. A man's voice, angry. How did that? Who did? A woman. Call security. Another voice. Mr. Rowan, I can explain. Get out. Albrecht's voice, cold, final. Get out of this building immediately. More sobbing, louder now. Ilyra. Please, I don't know how. This isn't Ms. Voss. Albrecht again, each word precise and sharp. You are terminated, effective immediately. You have 5 minutes to leave this building. If you're still here after that, I will have you escorted out by security. But I didn't. 5 minutes. Footsteps again. Fast. Heels clicking frantically against tile. moving away from the event space toward the exit. Then Ilyra's voice, closer now, in the hallway. Calder, where is... I need to find... someone else. I don't know. I haven't seen him. He did this. He must have... Her voice faded as she moved further away, still talking, still trying to make sense of what had just happened. I sat in the dark storage room and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no triumph, no regret. Just a strange, hollow calm. It was done. I checked my phone. 7:52. 6 minutes. That's all it had taken to dismantle 7 years of ambition. 6 minutes to show everyone who Ilyra really was. 6 minutes to burn her perfect life to the ground. My phone buzzed. A text from Saris. Saris. Holy God. I can't believe that just happened. Where are you? Me. Storage room. Waiting for things to clear out? Saris. Albrecht is furious. Like I've never seen him this angry. He's in the hallway right now telling staff to find out how that presentation got played. Me. They won't find anything. Saris. Ilyra's losing it. Completely losing it. She's crying and screaming and trying to call someone. Probably you. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Ilyra. 5 text messages. I didn't read them. Me. I'm going to wait another 10 minutes, then leave through the service entrance. Saris. Good idea. There are people everywhere right now. It's absolute chaos. Me. Thank you for your help. Saris. Don't thank me. This was... I knew it would be bad, but that was brutal. Half the room looked like they were going to be sick. Me. Good. Saris. What are you going to do now? Me. Go home. Wait for Ilyra. Saris. She's going to come after you. Hard. Me. I know. Saris. Be careful. I didn't respond to that. Just put the phone away and continued waiting. The sounds from the event space gradually diminished. Voices faded. Footsteps became less frequent. The chaos was moving elsewhere, to parking lots, to cars, to phones where people would call friends and family to report what they'd just witnessed. At 8:05, I opened the storage room door and looked out. The hallway was empty. I walked quickly to the service entrance, pushed it open, and stepped out into the cool evening air. Nobody saw me leave. I walked to the parking structure, got in my car, and drove home. The apartment was dark when I arrived. Empty. Ilyra hadn't made it back yet. Probably still at the venue, still trying to salvage something from the wreckage, still not accepting that everything she'd worked for was gone. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sat on the couch, turned on the television but didn't really watch it, and I waited for my wife to come home. She didn't come home until almost midnight. I heard her car in the driveway, the engine cutting off abruptly, the door slamming with enough force to rattle the windows. Then her footsteps on the walkway, fast and unsteady. Her keys scraping against the lock, missing twice before she got it open. The front door flew open and crashed against the wall. Ilyra stood in the doorway, and I barely recognized her. Her navy dress was wrinkled. Her carefully styled hair had come loose, hanging in uneven strands around her face. Her makeup was ruined, mascara streaked down her cheeks, lipstick smeared. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She looked broken. "You," she said. Her voice was raw, hoarse from screaming. "You did this." I set down my whiskey glass and looked at her calmly. "Did what?" "Don't." She stepped inside and slammed the door behind her. "Don't you dare play innocent with me. That presentation, those videos. You're the only one who could have... Could have what? Shown everyone who you really are?" She flinched like I'd struck her. "You destroyed me. Do you understand that? You destroyed everything I worked for, everything I built." "You destroyed it yourself," I said quietly. "I just made sure people knew about it." "How did you?" She stopped, her expression shifting from rage to comprehension. "My laptop. You went through my laptop. Found an interesting folder. Archive 2023, personal. Creative name, by the way." Her face went pale. "You had no right." "I had every right. I'm your husband." "You were my husband." She spat the words like poison. "After tonight, after what you did, we're done. Finished?" "I agree." That seemed to catch her off guard. She'd expected me to argue, to defend myself, to show some kind of emotion. Instead, I just sat there, calm and cold, watching her fall apart. "Why?" she asked finally. Her voice cracked. "Why would you do this? If you knew, if you found the videos, why didn't you confront me? Talk to me? Why did you have to humiliate me in front of everyone?" "Because talking wouldn't have meant anything. You would have apologized, made excuses, promised to change, and maybe I would have believed you. Maybe I would have convinced myself that we could fix this." I picked up my glass again. But we both know that would have been a lie. You don't respect me enough to be honest. You never did. That's not 8 months, Ilyra. At least 8 months, probably longer. With my best friend, in hotel rooms, and you kept videos of it all. I took a sip of whiskey. So no, I didn't want to talk. I wanted consequences. Consequences? Her voice rose to a near shriek. You think publicly humiliating me is consequences? You think destroying my career is consequences? Calder, I lost everything tonight. Albrecht terminated me, in front of everyone. Do you have any idea what that means? I can't work in this industry anymore. He'll make sure of it. He'll blacklist me everywhere. Good. She stared at me. You're insane. No, I'm just done being your accessory. Your convenient husband who stays quiet while you climb over everyone to get what you want. I gave you everything. A home, a life, stability. You gave me nothing. You gave yourself everything and expected me to be grateful for the scraps. She started crying again. Not the angry, bitter tears from before. These were desperate, broken sobs. The sound of someone who just realized how much they'd lost. Please, she whispered. Please, we can fix this. We can move somewhere else. Start over. I'll find another job. A different industry. We can... There's no we anymore. Don't say that. I want a divorce. The words hung in the air between us. Final. Irrevocable. Ilyra's legs seemed to give out. She sank onto the chair near the door, still crying, her whole body shaking. I'm sorry, she said through the tears. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. You just didn't mean to get caught. She looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw something desperate in her eyes. One last attempt to manipulate, to regain control. It meant nothing. Ronan meant nothing. It was just physical stress relief. You're the one I love. You're the one I married. Stop. I'm serious. Whatever you think this was, it wasn't... I said stop. I stood up. I don't want your excuses. I don't want your apologies. I don't want anything from you except a signature on divorce papers. Where are you going? To pack. I walked past her toward the bedroom. She grabbed my arm, her grip weak, desperate. You can't leave. We need to talk about this. We need to... I pulled my arm free. There's nothing left to talk about. I went into the bedroom and closed the door. Behind me, I heard her collapse into sobs again. Loud, wrenching sounds that might have broken my heart a week ago. Now they were just noise. I pulled out a duffel bag and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, the essentials, everything else could wait. When I emerged 20 minutes later, Ilyra was still in the chair by the door. She'd stopped crying but looked catatonic, staring at nothing, her face blank. I'm staying at a hotel tonight, I said. I'll come back this weekend for the rest of my things. She didn't respond, didn't even look at me. I walked to the door, opened it, then paused. For what it's worth, I said, I really did love you once. But that person is gone, and I'm not interested in loving whoever you became. I walked out and closed the door behind me, got in my car, drove away from the apartment, from the marriage, from 7 years of my life that had turned out to be built on lies, and I felt nothing but relief. The hotel room was generic and soulless, the kind of place that exists in every city, identical and forgettable. Beige walls, landscape painting bolted above the bed, a desk with a lamp that flickered slightly when you turned it on. It was perfect. I dropped my bag on the floor, sat on the edge of the bed, and finally let myself feel something. Not regret, not satisfaction, just exhaustion. The adrenaline that had been sustaining me all night was gone, leaving behind a hollow fatigue that settled into my bones like concrete. My phone buzzed. Multiple notifications I'd been ignoring. 7 missed calls from Ilyra, 12 text messages, 3 missed calls from Ronan, 5 texts, 2 calls from a number I didn't recognize. I opened Ilyra's texts first. Ilyra, where are you? Ilyra, call me now. Ilyra, please Calder. We need to talk, Ilyra. I know you're angry, but please just talk to me. Ilyra, this is insane. You can't just leave Ilyra. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Please come home. Ilyra, you destroyed my life, Ilyra. I hope you're happy, Ilyra. I hate you, Ilyra. Please, Ilyra. Please come home, Ilyra. I can't do this alone. I deleted the thread without responding. Then I opened Ronan's messages. Ronan, what the hell did you do? Ronan. Malin just called me screaming. She saw everything. Someone recorded it and sent it to her. Ronan, call me right now, Ronan. This is completely insane. You had no right. Ronan, we need to talk. Face to face. Tomorrow. I stared at that last message for a long time. Then I typed a response. Me. Your house. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. His reply came immediately. Ronan. Fine. We'll settle this? Me. Yes. We will. I set the phone down and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The hotel room's silence was absolute. No traffic noise, no neighbors, no sound of Ilyra moving through the apartment, creating her usual background noise of ambition and distraction. Just nothing. I should probably sleep. It was after 1 in the morning, but my mind was too active, replaying the night, analyzing what had happened, planning what came next, because this wasn't over. Destroying Ilyra's career was only half the equation. Ronan was still out there, still pretending to be the victim, still acting like he'd been caught up in something beyond his control instead of being an active, willing participant. That needed to be corrected. Tomorrow night, I'd show him exactly how wrong he was. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new document, started making notes, planning the conversation, anticipating his arguments, preparing my responses. Ronan was predictable. He always had been. Loud when he felt strong, cowardly when confronted with real consequences. Tomorrow, he'd try to intimidate me, try to make me feel guilty for exposing the truth, try to spin this into something I'd done to him rather than something he'd done to himself. And when that didn't work, he'd collapse. They always did. I worked for another hour, refining the plan, making sure I hadn't missed anything. Then I closed the laptop and finally tried to sleep. It didn't come easy, but eventually exhaustion won, and I drifted into a dreamless black that lasted until morning. The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. I checked out of the hotel at noon and drove around aimlessly, killing time, avoiding the apartment where Ilyra was probably still waiting, still hoping I'd come back and somehow make this all go away. I stopped at a diner for lunch, ordered coffee and eggs I barely touched. The waitress asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. She didn't believe me but didn't push. Around 3, my phone rang. Not Ilyra, not Ronan. Saris, I answered. You okay? She asked. Fine. You don't sound fine. I'm functional. She was quiet for a moment. Ilyra called me last night. Multiple times. She was hysterical. Kept saying you'd destroyed her life. That you'd betrayed her. That's one way to interpret it. She thinks you're a monster. I'm sure she does. Are you? I thought about that. No, I'm just someone who got tired of being lied to. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. She needed to face consequences. She'd never faced consequences before in her life. I know. What happens now? I'm seeing Ronan tonight. At his house? Yeah. That's bold. His wife is going to be there. I'm counting on it. Saris exhaled slowly. You're going to burn everything down, aren't you? Everything that deserves burning. Just be careful. Men like Ronan don't handle humiliation well. He might try something stupid. Let him try. We talked for a few more minutes. Logistics about retrieving my things from the apartment, where I was staying, whether I had a lawyer yet for the divorce, practical matters that felt surreal to discuss. When we hung up, I sat in my car in the diner parking lot and watched people come and go. Normal people living normal lives, dealing with normal problems that didn't involve betrayal or revenge or the systematic destruction of relationships. I envied them. At 6:30, I drove to Ronan's house. He lived in the suburbs, in one of those cookie-cutter developments where every house looked almost identical, except for slight variations in paint color and landscaping. His was beige with dark brown trim, a 2-car garage, a small front lawn that needed mowing. There were 2 cars in the driveway, Ronan's truck and a smaller sedan that probably belonged to Malin. Good. She was home. I parked on the street and sat there for a moment, gathering myself. This was it. The second act. I got out of the car and walked up the driveway. The front door opened before I could knock. Ronan stood there. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt. The confident, loud persona he usually projected was gone, replaced by something haunted and angry. You've got some nerve showing up here, he said. You invited me. I didn't think you'd actually come. Here I am. He stared at me for a long moment, then stepped aside. Get inside, before the neighbors see. I walked into the house. It smelled like coffee and stress. The living room was a mess. Dishes on the coffee table, blankets wadded on the couch like someone had been sleeping there. Malin sat in a chair near the window. She was small, blonde, younger than Ronan by a few years. Her eyes were red from crying, but when she looked at me, they were hard, angry. You're Calder, she said. It wasn't a question. I am. You're the one who put those videos up at the event. I am. Good. Her voice was flat. I'm glad you did. I'm glad everyone saw what these two were doing behind our backs. Ronan turned to her. Malin, can you just... No. She stood up. I can't just anything. I've been sitting here for 24 hours listening to you make excuses, listening to you blame Calder for exposing you instead of taking responsibility for what you did. I'm done with it. This isn't the time. When is the time, Ronan? When were you planning to tell me? Next year? 5 years from now? Never? He didn't answer. She looked at me. How long did you know? I found out a week ago. And you didn't tell me? I needed time to process it, to plan. To plan your revenge. To plan consequences. She nodded slowly. I understand that. I do. And honestly, thank you. Because I never would have known otherwise. He would have kept lying, kept sneaking around, kept making me feel like I was crazy for suspecting anything. Malin, Ronan said, his voice pleading. Can we talk about this later, in private? Why? So you can manipulate me again? So you can convince me that this wasn't as bad as it looked? That it was just a mistake? It was a mistake. 8 months, Ronan. 8 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Multiple choices. Hundreds of little decisions to lie to me, to betray me, to treat our marriage like it meant nothing. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. Her voice broke. Nothing about coming home yesterday to 12 text messages from people I barely know, all asking if I'd seen the video. Nothing about sitting in this house all night while you slept on the couch and didn't even have the decency to apologize. Nothing about realizing that my entire marriage has been a lie. Ronan's face was red now. You want an apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I made bad choices, but this, he gestured at me, this is insane. What he did was vindictive and cruel and exactly what you deserved, Malin finished. The room went quiet. Ronan stared at his wife like she'd just struck him. Then he turned to me. You're enjoying this, aren't you? You're loving watching my life fall apart. Not particularly, I said. I'm just making sure you understand that actions have consequences. Consequences? You destroyed Ilyra's career. You destroyed my marriage. You aired our private. Nothing about it was private once you decided to record yourselves. And you didn't seem too concerned about consequences when you were sleeping with my wife. His jaw clenched. That's different. How? It just is. Explain it to me then. Explain how betraying your best friend is somehow different than showing people what you did. He couldn't. He just stood there, his fists clenched, his face flushed with impotent rage. Malin spoke again. I want a divorce. Ronan's head snapped toward her. What? I want a divorce. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not pretending this marriage can survive this. I'm not spending the next 20 years wondering if you're cheating on me again. Malin, please. I already talked to a lawyer this morning, filed papers this afternoon. She stood up and walked toward the stairs. You can sleep on the couch. Or in a hotel. I don't care. But I want you out of this house by the end of the week. She went upstairs without looking back. Ronan stood frozen, staring at the empty staircase like he couldn't quite process what had just happened. Then he turned to me, and I saw it, the moment when the fear and shame transformed into rage. This is your fault, he said quietly. No, it's yours. You could have just talked to me, could have confronted me, could have given me a chance to... To what? Apologize? Make excuses? Try to minimize what you did? I shook my head. I gave you 8 months of chances. Every time we talked on the phone. Every time we got together. Every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to be my friend. Those were all chances to tell the truth. You chose not to. Because it would have hurt you. So instead, you just kept lying. Kept sleeping with my wife. Kept making a fool out of me behind my back. I stepped closer to him. You're not the victim here, Ronan. Neither is Ilyra. You're just two people who got caught. His fist came up fast. I saw it coming, telegraphed by the shift in his stance, the tensing of his shoulders, and I stepped to the side. His punch missed by inches, the momentum carrying him forward into the space where I'd been standing. He stumbled, caught himself on the coffee table, sent dishes crashing to the floor. Ronan, don't... I started. He spun around and came at me again. This time he connected, his shoulder slamming into my chest, driving me backward into the wall. Pain exploded across my back as I hit the door frame. You ruined everything, he shouted, his hands grabbing my shirt. Everything. I didn't fight back. Didn't throw a punch. Just put my hands up defensively, protecting my face. Ronan, stop. He shoved me again. I hit the wall harder this time, my head snapping back, stars exploding across my vision. Then Malin was there, at the top of the stairs, screaming, "Ronan! Stop it! Stop!" He froze, his hand still gripping my shirt. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the tears streaming down his face. Saw the absolute desolation in his eyes. Saw a man who'd just lost everything and didn't know how to process it except through violence. "I'm leaving," I said quietly. "I got what I came for." I pushed past him toward the door. He didn't try to stop me, just stood there, breathing hard, his hands shaking. I opened the door and stepped out onto the front porch. Behind me, I heard Malin's voice. "Pack your things. Get out of my house." Then the door slammed shut. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see Ronan's house getting smaller. The lights were on inside, shadows moved past windows, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no triumph, no guilt, just emptiness. I'd accomplished what I set out to do, shown them both, Ilyra and Ronan, that actions had consequences. That betrayal wasn't consequence-free, that you couldn't hurt people and expect them to just accept it quietly. But now that it was done, now that the revenge was complete, I realized something. Revenge doesn't heal anything. It just creates new wreckage. And I was standing in the middle of it all, alone. I drove back to the hotel, checked in for another night, and sat in the dark room staring at nothing. Tomorrow, I'd start figuring out what came next. Tonight, I just needed to stop moving, to stop planning, to stop destroying. Tonight, I just needed to exist in the quiet aftermath of everything I'd done, and wonder if any of it had been worth it. 3 days passed in a blur of hotel rooms and silence. Not comfortable silence, not peaceful silence. The hollow silence of aftermath, the kind that settles over a battlefield once the fighting stops and everyone starts counting casualties. I stayed at the Riverside Inn, a mid-range hotel near the industrial district where nobody asked questions and the front desk staff changed shifts often enough that no one remembered seeing me twice. The room was aggressively generic. Beige walls, a landscape painting bolted to the wall above the bed, a desk with a lamp that flickered when you turned it on, carpet that had absorbed decades of other people's problems and secrets. It was perfect for hiding. I didn't go back to the apartment, couldn't face it. The thought of walking through that door, seeing the spaces where Ilyra's things used to be, breathing air that still carried traces of her perfume, it was too much. Not because I missed her. I didn't. But because going back would mean confronting the physical reality of what I'd destroyed. My phone rang constantly. Ilyra called 37 times in those first 3 days. I counted. Watched the screen light up with her name, watched it ring until voicemail picked up, then watched the notification appear announcing another message I wouldn't listen to. The texts were worse because I could see previews on the lock screen. Ilyra. Where are you? Ilyra. Call me now. Ilyra. Please, Calder. We need to talk. Ilyra. I know you're angry, but please just talk to me. Ilyra. This is insane. You can't just leave, Ilyra. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Please come home. Ilyra. You destroyed my life. Ilyra. I hope you're happy. Ilyra. I hate you. Ilyra. Please, Ilyra. Please come home, Ilyra. I can't do this alone. The messages cycled through anger, bargaining, desperation, rage, and back to desperation. A predictable pattern. The 5 stages of grief compressed into text message form, looping endlessly because acceptance required acknowledging that this was real, that I wasn't coming back, that the marriage was over. I didn't respond to any of them. On the morning of the 4th day, my phone rang with a number I recognized. Saris, I answered. Calder. Her voice was tight, controlled. Where are you? Hotel. Why? Ilyra moved out of the apartment. I sat up in bed. When? Yesterday. She showed up with our parents and a moving company, took her stuff and left. She's staying with them now in their guest room. How is she? Honestly, a wreck. She's not sleeping, barely eating. Just sits in that room staring at the wall when she's not calling you or trying to figure out where you are. What's she telling people? That you had a psychotic break, that you sabotaged her out of jealousy because you couldn't handle her success, that you've always been controlling and this was your way of punishing her. I laughed bitterly. Of course she is. Our mother believes every word. She's always thought Ilyra could do no wrong. Now she's convinced you're some kind of monster who destroyed her daughter's life. And your father? He's more skeptical. I can see it in his face when Ilyra talks. Like he knows something doesn't add up. But he won't say anything. You know how Dad is. He'd rather avoid conflict than get involved. What about you? What are you telling them? The truth. I showed them proof. Pulled up copies of the videos on my laptop. Not the explicit parts. Just enough to make it clear what was happening. Made them look at the timestamps. How'd they take it? Our mother called me a traitor. Said I betrayed my own sister. That family should stick together no matter what. I'm sorry. Don't be. Someone needed to hold Ilyra accountable. I'm glad it was us. Sarah's paused. There's something else. It's about Ronan. My stomach tightened. What about him? He lost his job. His company fired him 2 days ago. What? How? Someone at the event recorded the presentation on their phone. By the next morning, it was circulating on social media, blurred out the explicit parts, but still clear enough to see what was happening. One of Ronan's colleagues saw it, recognized him, and sent it to their HR department. They called him in, showed him the video, and terminated him on the spot. Conduct unbecoming or violation of company values or some corporate language like that. I processed this slowly. Ronan losing his job hadn't been part of the plan. I'd wanted him to face consequences, for Malin to know the truth, for him to experience the same exposure and humiliation that Ilyra had faced. But destroying his career specifically hadn't been my intention, though I couldn't say I felt bad about it either. How do you know all this? I asked. Malin told me. We've been talking. She reached out after everything happened, wanted to connect with someone who understood what it felt like to have a family member betray you. She's staying with her sister across town now. Filed for divorce already, moved faster than Ilyra even. She wants out, wants to start fresh, wants to erase Ronan from her life as completely as possible. Can't blame her. No, can't. Sarah's paused. Ronan's living in some extended stay motel off Highway 92, the Extended Comfort Inn or something like that. Malin said he's called her a dozen times, left voicemails begging her to talk to him, to give him another chance, to let him explain. She blocked his number yesterday. Is she okay? Better than you'd expect? She's angry, obviously, hurt, but also weirdly relieved. She said she felt like she'd been holding her breath for months, waiting for proof that she wasn't crazy, and now that she has it, she can finally exhale. I thought about that. About Malin finding strange relief in having her worst suspicions confirmed, about how sometimes the truth, even when it's devastating, is better than uncertainty. What about you? I asked. How are you holding up with all of this? Sarah sighed. Honestly, I'm tired. Tired of being caught in the middle. Tired of watching my family tear itself apart. My mother won't speak to me. My father tries to play peacemaker but won't actually take a side. And Ilyra, she trailed off. What about her? She keeps calling me, crying, asking me why I betrayed her, saying I chose you over my own sister, like there was some kind of loyalty test and I failed. I'm sorry. Don't be. I made the right choice. I know I did. But that doesn't make it easy. We talked for a few more minutes about practical matters, the apartment lease, divorce proceedings, settlements. After we hung up, my phone buzzed immediately. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. This is Malin Ashby. Saris gave me your number. I hope that's okay. Can we talk? I think it would help both of us. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Me. When? Malin. Today, if possible. Coffee? There's a place called Brewers on 5th Street. 3 p.m.? Me. I'll be there. Brewers was busier than I expected for a weekday afternoon. Dark wood, leather booths, the smell of espresso and old books. Most tables were occupied by people with laptops, creating a buffer of white noise that made it feel private. Malin was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a paper cup. She looked composed but exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that comes from crying too much and sleeping too little. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. Of course. I ordered black coffee. We sat in awkward silence until it arrived. I wanted to apologize, Malin said, for what Ronan did. I know I wasn't involved, but I still feel like I need to say I'm sorry for what you went through. You don't need to apologize for his choices. Maybe not, but I want to anyway. She took a sip of coffee. I also wanted to thank you for destroying your marriage, for telling me the truth. Her voice was firm now. I suspected something was wrong for months, maybe longer. But every time I brought it up, Ronan made me feel crazy, paranoid, like I was inventing problems because I was insecure. Gaslighting. Exactly. And I started believing him. Started thinking maybe I was the problem, maybe I was too needy, too suspicious. She set her cup down. But I wasn't. I was right. and if you hadn't shown everyone what they were doing, I would have spent years doubting my own instincts. I nodded slowly. How are you doing? Honestly, some days I'm okay. Other days I want to scream. The divorce is moving fast. Ronan's not contesting anything. We're selling the house. It should be final in a few months. And then? And then I start over. New city, maybe. Definitely new life. Somewhere Ronan's shadow doesn't follow me. She smiled sadly. What about you? I honestly don't know. Divorce, new apartment, figure out how to be a person again. You don't seem like someone who enjoyed what you did. I didn't. I thought I would. I thought there would be satisfaction in watching them face consequences. But there wasn't. Just emptiness. That's because revenge doesn't heal anything. It just creates new damage. She leaned forward. But that doesn't mean you were wrong. Sometimes people need to face consequences. Sometimes the truth needs to come out, even if it destroys things. We talked for over an hour, about marriage and betrayal and starting over. The hardest part, Malin said, stirring her coffee, is realizing how much time I wasted. Not just the 8 months of the affair, but all the time before that when I knew something was wrong but let him convince me I was imagining it. I know exactly what you mean. Do you ever wonder if there were signs you missed, early on, before the affair even started? I thought about that. Maybe. Probably. Ilyra was always ambitious, always focused on her career more than our relationship, but I told myself that was just who she was, that I needed to be supportive instead of demanding more attention. That's what they count on, Malin said. People like Ronan and Ilyra. They count on us being understanding, being patient, being willing to accept less than we deserve because we don't want to seem needy or controlling. You're right. My therapist said something interesting last week. She said betrayal isn't just about what they did, it's about all the small betrayals that led up to it. Every time Ronan dismissed my concerns, every time he made me feel crazy for trusting my instincts, those were betrayals too. Your therapist sounds smart. She is. She's the only reason I'm still functional. Malin finished her coffee. What about you? Are you seeing anyone? Therapist, I mean? No, should I be? It might help. Processing all of this alone, it's a lot. Even for someone who seems as together as you do. I don't feel together. None of us do. We're all just pretending until it becomes real. She smiled. That's what my therapist says anyway. We talked about her plans to move to Portland, where she had a cousin who worked in tech and could help her find a job. About selling the house. How strange it felt to divide up a life they'd built together. How every piece of furniture had a memory attached that now felt tainted. I'm keeping the coffee table, she said. The one we bought at that antique store on our 2nd anniversary. Ronan wanted me to take it in the settlement. Said he didn't want any reminders. But I'm keeping it. Because it was ours before it was his. Before the affair, before everything fell apart. And I refuse to let him ruin every good memory I have. That makes sense. Does it? Sometimes I think I'm just being stubborn, holding on to things I should let go of. Maybe, but maybe some things are worth holding on to, even if they hurt. When we finally stood to leave, she hugged me. Not just a polite goodbye hug, a real one. The kind that says, we're in this together, even though we barely know each other. Take care of yourself, Calder, she said. You too. And seriously, consider therapy. Or at least call me if you need to talk. Sometimes it helps to talk to someone who understands. I will. She walked away, and I watched her disappear into the afternoon crowd. Then I got in my car and drove back to the hotel. But this time, instead of just collapsing on the bed, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments. 1 step at a time, Malin had said, so I took 1 step. 2 weeks later, I was standing in front of a new apartment building on the east side of the city. It was modern, exposed ductwork, polished concrete floors, floor-to-ceiling windows. The rent was higher than I wanted to pay, but it was available immediately and far enough from my old neighborhood that I wouldn't constantly be reminded of the life I'd left behind. The apartment itself was smaller, 1 bedroom instead of 2, a galley kitchen that could barely fit 2 people, a living room that was really just a wider section of hallway, but it was mine. No shared history, no memories, just empty space waiting to be filled. I'd signed the lease that morning, paid the deposit and first month's rent, scheduled movers for the next day. I was standing on the empty balcony when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Calder Voss? A woman's voice. Professional. This is Detective Andrea Finch with the City Police Department. I'm calling about an incident report filed by Ronan Ashby. My stomach dropped. What kind of incident report? Mr. Ashby is claiming you assaulted him at his residence approximately 2 weeks ago. He's considering pressing charges. I'd like to hear your side of the story. I explained everything. Ronan inviting me, Malin being there, Ronan attacking me not fighting back. Detective Finch listened without interrupting. Have you had any contact with Mr. Ashby since that night? No, none. I've reviewed Mr. Ashby's statement and I've spoken with his ex-wife. Her account matches yours exactly, that Mr. Ashby was the aggressor and you acted in self-defense. Relief washed through me. So, what happens now? Honestly, probably nothing. This reads like a man who's angry about his life falling apart. The physical evidence doesn't support his version. You have documented injuries from the ER visit that night. So I'm clear? Unless he can provide actual evidence, which contradicts his own wife's testimony, I don't see this going anywhere. But I need to give you some official advice. Stay away from Mr. Ashby. Don't contact him. If he shows up at your home or workplace, call us immediately. You think he's dangerous. I think he's desperate, and desperate people do unpredictable things. After she hung up, I sat on the apartment floor processing. Ronan was trying to reframe the narrative, make himself the victim. I spent the rest of the day unpacking boxes, setting up my new bedroom, arranging furniture. The apartment was slowly taking shape. Not home yet, but getting there. Around 6 p.m., I ordered takeout, Chinese food from a place down the street. Ate it standing at the kitchen counter, looking out at the city lights starting to glow in the growing darkness. My phone buzzed. A text from Saris. Saris, how's the new place? Me. Empty. But it's mine. Saris, that's something. Heard from the detective? Me. Yeah. Ronan filed a police report. She doesn't think it'll go anywhere. Saris, he's spiraling. Be careful. Me. I will. Around 7 p.m., someone knocked on the door. I froze, set down my food, walked quietly to the peephole. Ronan stood in the hallway. He looked worse than I could have imagined. Thinner, his clothes hung loose on his frame like he'd borrowed them from someone bigger. His hair was greasy, uncombed. His face was unshaven, dark circles under his eyes so pronounced they looked like bruises. He wore sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. He looked like someone who'd given up on everything. He knocked again, harder this time. Calder, I know you're in there. I saw you move in earlier. I've been waiting in my car. We need to talk. My first instinct was to call the police. Detective Finch had explicitly told me to do exactly that if Ronan showed up. But something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was a desire to finally close this chapter completely. Maybe I was just tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of letting fear dictate my actions. Or maybe, on some level, I wanted to see what Ronan had become. Wanted to see the full weight of consequences written on his face. Against every bit of better judgment, I undid the chain lock and opened the door. Ronan stood there, swaying slightly. I could smell alcohol on him, not overwhelming, but present. Enough to suggest he'd been drinking, but not enough to make him visibly intoxicated. What do you want, Ronan? To talk. Just to talk. Please? His voice was hoarse, rough from disuse or crying or both. I should have said no, should have closed the door, called the police, let them handle it. Instead, I stepped aside. 5 minutes. He walked in slowly, carefully, like he wasn't sure his legs would support him. He looked around at the empty apartment. Boxes stacked in corners, minimal furniture, the general chaos of someone in the process of starting over. Starting fresh? He asked. Something like that. He nodded, hands in his pockets, looking at everything except me. He seemed smaller somehow. Diminished. Like whatever had been holding him upright all these years had finally collapsed. I wanted to apologize, he said finally, for what happened at my house, for coming at you like that, for losing control. I wasn't thinking clearly. You filed a police report claiming I attacked you. He flinched visibly. Yeah, about that. I was angry. I thought if I could make you the bad guy, maybe I could salvage something. Maybe I could convince Malin to give me another chance. Maybe I could get my job back if I could prove you'd manipulated everything. He looked at me finally. His eyes were bloodshot, exhausted. But Malin told the cops what really happened, so I withdrew it this morning. The detective didn't mention that. I called her right after I talked to her, told her I was dropping it, that I'd been mistaken about what happened. I studied his face. He looked sincere, or at least, he looked too broken to be lying. Why are you really here, Ronan? Because I'm drowning. His voice cracked completely this time. Everything's gone. My marriage, my job, my house, my reputation. I'm living in a motel room that costs $40 a night and smells like mildew and regret. I have maybe 3 months of savings left before I'm completely broke, and I keep asking myself how it all went so wrong so fast. You cheated on your wife with mine for 8 months. You lied to everyone who trusted you. You recorded it all and kept the videos. Actions have consequences. I know. He sat down on one of my unpacked boxes, put his head in his hands. I know that. But did the consequences have to be so? He gestured helplessly. Complete? Did I have to lose everything? What did you expect? A slap on the wrist? A stern talking to? You betrayed everyone who trusted you. This is what that looks like. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I loved her, you know, Ilyra. It wasn't just physical. It wasn't just an affair. I actually had feelings for her. Something cold settled in my chest, colder than anything I'd felt before. Then you should have left Malin, and I should have left Ilyra, and we all could have handled this like adults. But instead, you chose to lie, to sneak around, to keep us both in the dark while you had your affair. You chose to hurt people instead of being honest. It wasn't that simple. It was exactly that simple. Every single day, you made a choice. Stay loyal or betray, tell the truth or lie, honor your commitments or break them. And every single day, you chose wrong. Not once, not twice, hundreds of times over 8 months. He looked up at me. Do you hate me? I thought about that. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't hate you. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. I'm angry about what you did. But I don't hate you. Why not? Because hate requires caring, and I don't think I care enough anymore to hate you. You're just someone who used to be my friend and isn't anymore. That seemed to hurt him more than anything else I'd said. The idea that I'd moved past hate into indifference. I really am sorry, he said quietly. For what that's worth. I know you'll never forgive me. I know we'll never be friends again, but I need you to know that I'm sorry, that I regret it, that if I could go back and make different choices, I would. But you can't. No, I can't. He stood up slowly, walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. For what it's worth, I hope you find whatever you're looking for, peace or closure or whatever comes after all this. You deserve that much. So do you, I said, and surprisingly, I meant it. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him, deadbolt and chain, and stood there listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway. Then I walked to the window and watched him get into a beat-up sedan parked on the street below. He sat there for a long time, just staring at nothing. Then he started the engine and drove away. I stood at the window for another hour, watching the street, making sure he didn't come back. He didn't. Finally, I went to bed. And for the first time since I'd found those videos, I slept through the night without waking up. 6 weeks after the promotion event that destroyed everything, I was sitting in a lawyer's office signing divorce papers. The office was in one of those professional buildings downtown where every floor looked identical. The conference room had a long table, uncomfortable chairs, and a window overlooking the parking structure. Ilyra sat across from me. We hadn't been in the same room since that night she came home and found out what I'd done. Our lawyers had handled all communication since then, dividing assets, settling the lease, working out who got what from 7 years of shared life. She looked different, thinner, hair cut short, minimal makeup, exhausted, like she'd decided to become a different person entirely. Maybe she had. This is the final set of documents, my lawyer Patricia said, sliding papers across the table. Once you both sign, the divorce will be filed. Final in 30 days, pending the judge's approval. I picked up the pen and signed without hesitation. Each signature felt like closing a door I'd never wanted to open. Ilyra watched me, then reached for her own folder. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen. Are you certain you want to proceed, Ms. Voss? Her lawyer asked quietly. I'm certain, she said. Her voice was hoarse. Let's just get this over with. She signed each page slowly, carefully. That's everything, her lawyer said, unless either party has any final questions. Silence. The lawyers stood, gathered documents, and left to file them. Ilyra and I sat alone. I have one question, she said. Not for the lawyers. For you. Everyone looked at her. Why did you do it that way? Why the public humiliation? Why not just divorce me quietly? I'd known this question was coming. Because you needed to face consequences. Real consequences. If I'd just divorced you quietly, you would have spun some story, you would have kept your promotion, your reputation, and you would have learned nothing. So you destroyed my career to teach me a lesson? I showed people who you really were. The rest was just consequences. I lost everything, Calder. My job, my reputation, my marriage, any chance at working in this industry again? Was that really necessary? You had 8 months to tell the truth, 8 months to end things with Ronan or end things with me. You chose to do neither. So yes, I think it was necessary. She stared at her hands. I was wrong. About the affair. About lying to you. I was selfish and stupid, and I hurt you badly. I know that now. Good. Does it help? Knowing that I admit it? A little. Not enough to change anything. But a little. She nodded. I'm starting over. Moving to Denver. My parents helped me get a job with their friend's company. Entry level. Less than half what I was making, but it's something. I hope it works out. She stood, gathering her purse. I really did love you, at the beginning. That was real. I believe you. But it wasn't enough. No, it wasn't. She walked to the door, paused. I hope you find someone who deserves you, someone who won't betray you. I hope you figure out who you want to be, and become that person honestly this time. She smiled sadly. We'll see. Then she was gone. I sat processing the end of my marriage. No drama, no big moment. Just paperwork and 2 people deciding to stop. My phone buzzed. Saris. How'd it go? Me. Signed everything. Final in 30 days. Saris. How do you feel? Me. Free. Sad. Relieved. All of it at once. Saris. Want dinner tonight? Me. Yeah, that sounds good. I left the office and walked out into bright sunlight. The afternoon was warm, almost aggressive after the fluorescent lighting and air conditioning of the law office. I stood in the parking structure for a moment, letting my eyes adjust, trying to figure out what I was supposed to feel. Relief, sadness, anger, regret, all of it, none of it. My phone buzzed. A text from Saris. Saris. How'd it go? Me. Signed everything. Final in 30 days. Saris. How do you feel? I thought about that for a moment, then typed, me, free, sad, relieved, empty, all of it at once. Series. That sounds about right. Want to grab dinner tonight? Celebrate the end of this chapter? Me. Yeah, that sounds good. Saris. 7 p.m. at Romano's. Me. See you there. I put the phone away and got in my car. As I drove through the city, past familiar landmarks that were starting to feel less familiar, I thought about everything that had happened since that Tuesday when I turned 36 and discovered my wife's betrayal. The shock of finding those videos, the cold calculation of planning revenge, the execution at the promotion event, the confrontation with Ronan, Malin's gratitude, the lawyers and negotiations and slow dissolution of everything I'd built over 7 years. The revenge had accomplished what I'd intended. Ilyra faced consequences, Ronan faced consequences. The truth came out, and everyone had to deal with it. Nobody could pretend it hadn't happened. Nobody could minimize it or explain it away, but it hadn't healed anything, hadn't made me feel better, hadn't restored what was broken or undone the betrayal. It had just created a different kind of wreckage, damage on top of damage, pain in response to pain. And now I was left standing in the aftermath, surrounded by rubble, trying to figure out how to build something new. Maybe that was okay. Maybe moving forward didn't require feeling good about what had happened. Maybe it just required accepting reality and choosing to keep going anyway. Maybe healing wasn't about revenge or justice or consequences. Maybe it was just about time, about putting distance between yourself and the worst moments, about waking up one day and realizing you'd gone an entire morning without thinking about what had happened. I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment building, my new building, the one with no memories of Ilyra, no ghosts in the corners, no reminders of who I'd been when we were together. I sat there for a moment, engine off, just existing in the quiet. Then I got out and went inside. The apartment was slowly starting to look like a home. I'd unpacked most of the boxes, hung some pictures on the walls, photographs I'd taken over the years, places I'd been, moments that belonged to me alone. Bought a few new things that were mine without compromise, a coffee maker I actually liked, a comfortable reading chair, books I'd been meaning to read. It was small, it was quiet, it was empty in some ways, but it was mine. I made coffee, the good kind, from the new coffee maker. Sat on the couch with a book I'd been trying to finish for weeks, turned on some music, nothing too heavy, just background noise to fill the silence. And for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not joy, not contentment, just peace. The kind that comes from knowing the worst is over, that you've survived something that should have broken you and somehow, improbably, you're still here, Still breathing, still thinking, still capable of moving forward. The revenge was over. The consequences had been delivered. The marriage was ending. The old life was gone. Now came the hard part. Learning how to live again. Learning who Calder was when he wasn't someone's husband, when he wasn't someone's betrayed partner, when he wasn't someone defined by what had been done to him. Just Calder. Alone. Starting over. It was terrifying. But also, in a strange way, it was liberating. I had no idea what came next, what my life would look like in a year, where I'd be, who I'd become, whether I'd find someone new or stay alone, whether I'd forgive Ilyra and Ronan or carry this anger forever, whether the emptiness would fade or become permanent. But for the first time since finding those videos, I was curious to find out. And that felt like enough. I took a sip of coffee, opened my book, started reading. Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. People living their lives, going to work, coming home, loving and fighting and betraying and forgiving and starting over. All the normal chaos of human existence. And somewhere in that chaos, I was learning to exist again, one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time. 3 months after signing the divorce papers, I was finally starting to feel like a person again, not the same person I'd been before. That version of Calder, the one who'd been married to Ilyra, who'd trusted his best friend, who'd lived in comfortable ignorance, was gone, dead, buried under the weight of betrayal and revenge and consequence. But a new person was emerging, someone harder, more cautious, less willing to trust, but also strangely more honest, more aware of who I was and what I wanted. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. A judge signed the papers, a clerk processed them, and 7 years of marriage dissolved into legal documentation filed in some government database. No ceremony, no final goodbye, just bureaucratic efficiency turning a relationship into history. I'd started therapy. Malin had been right about that. Processing everything alone was too much, too heavy. The therapist, a woman in her 50s named Dr. Reeves, who had kind eyes and refused to let me avoid difficult questions, was helping me untangle the knot of emotions I'd been carrying. Guilt, anger, grief, relief, satisfaction, regret. All of it mixed together in a way that made it impossible to separate one feeling from another. "You're allowed to feel multiple things at once," Dr. Reeves had said during our last session. "You can be glad the truth came out and still feel bad about the damage it caused. You can be relieved the marriage is over and still grieve what you lost. Human emotions are complex. They don't fit into neat categories." I'd nodded, pretending I understood. But the truth was, I was still figuring out how to feel anything at all. Work helped. I'd thrown myself into my job at the logistics company where I'd been employed for the past 5 years. My boss, a pragmatic woman named Helen, who didn't pry into personal matters, had given me space after the divorce, letting me take on extra projects to keep busy. I was good at logistics, good at organizing chaos into ordered systems, good at finding solutions to complicated problems. It was easier than organizing my own life. I was sitting at my desk on a Tuesday afternoon reviewing shipping manifests for a client in Seattle when my phone rang. Cirrus. "Hey," I answered. "What's up? Are you sitting down?" Her voice was tight, controlled in the way it got when she was trying not to panic. "I'm at my desk. What's wrong?" "I just had lunch with someone from Ilyra's old company, one of her former colleagues. She told me something concerning." My stomach tightened. "What?" "Ilyra's planning something. I don't know what exactly, but apparently she's been making calls, asking questions about you, about where you work, where you live, your daily routine." "Why?" "I don't know, but it doesn't sound good. My contact said Ilyra seemed obsessed, like she's been fixating on you for months." I leaned back in my chair, processing this. "Obsessed how?" "She talks about you constantly, blames you for everything that went wrong in her life, says you destroyed her career out of spite, that you manipulated everyone into thinking she was the villain when really you were the controlling, jealous husband who couldn't handle her success. That's insane." "I know, but she's convinced herself it's true, and apparently she's been researching ways to, I don't know, get revenge, clear her name. My contact wasn't entirely clear, but she thought I should warn you." I stood up and walked to the window of my office, looking out at the parking lot below. "Has she actually done anything, or is this just talk?" "Just talk so far. But Calder?" Sarah's paused. "She's not stable. Our mother says she barely leaves the house, doesn't eat properly, spends all day online reading articles about wrongful termination and defamation. She's built this whole narrative in her head where she's the victim and you're the villain." "What do you want me to do?" "Be careful, watch your back. If she shows up, don't engage. Just call the police. You think she's dangerous? I think she's desperate. And desperate people do unpredictable things. After we hung up, I sat at my desk staring at my computer screen without really seeing it. Ilyra was fixating on me, building some kind of plan. The rational part of my brain said this was probably nothing. Just the wounded pride of someone who couldn't accept responsibility for their own actions. Just talk and empty threats from a person who'd lost everything and needed someone to blame. But another part of me, the part that had learned not to dismiss warning signs, the part that had survived betrayal by paying attention to details, said this was something to take seriously. I called Detective Finch, left a voicemail explaining the situation. She called back 20 minutes later. Mr. Voss, what can I do for you? I explained what Saris had told me about Ilyra making inquiries, about her obsessive behavior, about the possibility that she might try something. Has she contacted you directly? Detective Finch asked. No, not since the divorce was finalized. Has she shown up at your home or workplace? No. Has she made any specific threats? Not that I know of. This is all secondhand information from my ex-sister-in-law. Then unfortunately, there's not much I can do. Making inquiries isn't illegal. Being obsessed isn't illegal. Unless she actually does something, contacts you against your wishes, shows up somewhere she shouldn't be, makes explicit threats. My hands are tied. So I just wait until she does something? Document everything. If she contacts you, save the messages. If she shows up, take photos, build a paper trail. And if she does anything that makes you feel unsafe, call 911 immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. I called Detective Finch, left a voicemail explaining the situation. She called back 20 minutes later. Mr. Voss, what can I do for you? I explained what Saris had told me, about Ilyra making inquiries, about her obsessive behavior, about the possibility that she might try something. Has she contacted you directly? Detective Finch asked. No, not since the divorce was finalized. Has she shown up at your home or workplace? No. Has she made any specific threats? Not that I know of. This is all secondhand information from my ex-sister-in-law. Then unfortunately, there's not much I can do. Making inquiries isn't illegal. Being obsessed isn't illegal. Unless she actually does something, contacts you against your wishes, shows up somewhere she shouldn't be, makes explicit threats, my hands are tied. So I just wait until she does something? Document everything. If she contacts you, save the messages. If she shows up, take photos, build a paper trail. And if she does anything that makes you feel unsafe, call 911 immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. That's it? That's all you can tell me? I understand your frustration, Mr. Voss. I really do. But the law requires evidence of actual wrongdoing before we can intervene. Right now, all you have is speculation about what she might do. That's not enough for a restraining order or any kind of legal action. What if she shows up at my office or my home? If she shows up and makes you feel threatened, call us immediately. We'll respond. But until then, all you can do is be aware and prepared. Prepared how? Don't engage with her if she tries to contact you. Don't respond to messages or calls. If she shows up somewhere, leave and contact us. Don't try to have a conversation or reason with her. People who are fixated on someone aren't thinking rationally. Trying to talk to them usually makes things worse. After the call, I sat at my desk feeling frustrated and helpless. The legal system required me to wait until something bad happened before taking action. It was reactive instead of proactive. Protection only came after damage had been done. I opened a new document on my computer and started a log. Date, time, Saris's call, what she'd told me, the call to Detective Finch. Everything documented with timestamps and details. If Ilyra did something, I wanted evidence ready. My coworker Jake stopped by my office around 4. You look stressed. Everything okay? Just personal stuff. Nothing major. Want to grab a drink after work? Take your mind off it? I almost said no, but sitting at home alone, waiting for something to happen, sounded worse than a distraction. Yeah, sure, that sounds good. We went to a sports bar near the office. Baseball game on the screens. Loud conversation creating a buffer of white noise. Jake ordered a beer. I got whiskey. So what's the personal stuff? Jake asked. If you don't mind me asking. I considered how much to tell him. Jake was a good guy. We'd worked together for 3 years, grabbed lunch occasionally, but we weren't close friends. He didn't know about the divorce or the affair or any of it. My ex-wife might be planning something, I said finally. Nothing concrete, just concerning behavior. Planning something like what? I don't know. That's the problem. Could be nothing. Could be a confrontation. Could be trying to cause trouble at work. I honestly have no idea. Why would she do that? Long story. Short version. Our divorce wasn't amicable. She blames me for a lot of things that went wrong in her life. And apparently she's been fixating on that blame. Jake took a long drink of his beer. That's rough, man. You talked to the cops? Yeah. They said document everything, but there's nothing they can do unless she actually does something. That's frustrating. Very. We watched the game for a while. Then Jake said, "For what it's worth, you seem like you're handling it well. Staying calm, not freaking out." "I'm freaking out internally. I'm just good at hiding it." He laughed. "Aren't we all?" We stayed for another hour, talking about work and sports and anything except my personal life. When I finally got home around 8, I felt marginally better. Not safe, not at ease, but less trapped in my own anxiety. I checked all the locks on my doors and windows, made sure the security bar was in place on the balcony door, set my phone on the nightstand with the emergency number ready to dial. Then I tried to sleep. Couldn't. Every sound in the building made me tense. Every car in the parking lot made me wonder if it was her. Every shadow outside the window felt like a threat. Around midnight, I gave up on sleep and turned on the television, found some mindless late-night show, and let it play in the background while I sat on the couch with my laptop, researching restraining orders and stalking laws and what legal options I had if Ilyra actually did something. The answer was, not many. Unless she explicitly threatened me or showed a pattern of harassment, the courts wouldn't intervene, and by the time a pattern was established, it might be too late. I thought about calling Saris, but it was after midnight, and there was nothing she could do anyway. She was probably already asleep, trying to forget about her sister's instability for a few hours. Instead, I called Malin. She answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. "Calder, what's wrong?" "Sorry, I know it's late. I needed to talk to someone." "It's okay. I told you to call any time. What happened?" I told her about Saris's call, about Ilyra leaving her parents' house, about the detective saying there was nothing they could do, about spending the evening in a sports bar trying not to think about it and then coming home to lock all my doors like I was preparing for an invasion. "You sound scared," Malin said gently. "I am, and I hate that I am. I hate that she has this power over me even though we're divorced. I hate that I'm sitting here at midnight, scared of my ex-wife, like I'm the one who did something wrong." "You're not wrong to be scared. Fear is your brain trying to protect you. It's not weakness. It's survival instinct. It feels like weakness. It's not. Calder, listen to me. You did something incredibly brave by exposing the truth. But that bravery doesn't mean you have to be fearless about the consequences. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to take precautions. It's okay to ask for help. I don't know what kind of help to ask for. Start with not being alone. Do you have friends you can stay with for a few days? Family? My parents are in another state. I don't really have close friends here. Most of my social circle was through Ilyra or Ronan. What about Saris? She's dealing with her own family drama. I can't ask her to take me in. Malin was quiet for a moment. Okay, here's what you're going to do. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call your landlord and ask about getting additional security, maybe a camera for your door, maybe changing your locks. Then you're going to vary your routine. Don't leave for work at the same time every day. Don't take the same route. Make yourself harder to predict. You sound like you've thought about this before. I have. When Ronan was at his worst, after the divorce, I was terrified he'd show up drunk or angry and do something stupid, so I took precautions. Changed my routine, told my neighbors to call me if they saw him. Had an emergency bag packed in case I needed to leave quickly. Did he ever show up? No, but I felt safer knowing I was prepared, and that made it easier to sleep at night. We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me about her new life in Portland, about the apartment she'd rented near the river, about her job at the tech startup and the coworkers who were becoming friends, about slowly rebuilding a life that didn't revolve around betrayal and divorce. It gets better, she said. Slowly, unevenly, but it does get better. You won't always feel this afraid. You won't always be looking over your shoulder. Eventually, you'll have a whole day where you don't think about any of this, and then another day, and another, until the fear becomes background noise instead of the main event. I hope you're right. I am. Trust me. After we hung up, I felt marginally better. Not safe, but less alone. I managed to sleep for a few hours, fitfully, full of dreams where Ilyra kept appearing in places she shouldn't be, at my office, in my apartment, standing in the parking lot staring up at my window. When my alarm went off at 6, I was exhausted but functional. I showered, made coffee, got dressed for work, and I prepared myself for whatever was coming. That evening, I met Malin for dinner. We'd been doing this once a month since our first coffee meeting, just two people who'd survived the same betrayal, checking in on each other, making sure neither of us was drowning alone. She looked better every time I saw her, healthier, more confident. She'd moved to Portland 2 months ago and had landed a job at a tech startup. Nothing glamorous, but stable. A fresh start in a city where nobody knew her story. "You look worried," she said after we'd ordered. "What's going on?" I told her about Saris's call, about Ilyra's obsessive behavior, about Detective Finch's advice to document everything and wait. Malin frowned. "That's concerning. You think she's actually dangerous? Or is this just, I don't know, processing grief in an unhealthy way? With people like Ilyra?" Malin stirred her drink thoughtfully. "It's hard to say. She spent her whole life being in control, being the one with power. And you took that away from her. Publicly. Completely. She probably feels humiliated, powerless. And when people who are used to being in control suddenly lose it, they sometimes do extreme things to get it back. You're not making me feel better." "I'm not trying to. I'm trying to make you take this seriously." She leaned forward. "Calder, I need you to promise me something. If Ilyra contacts you, if she shows up anywhere near you, you don't engage. You don't try to reason with her or calm her down or explain yourself. You just leave and call the police. Okay?" "Okay. I'm serious. People who feel like victims, even when they're actually the perpetrators, can be dangerous. They've justified everything in their own minds. They've rewritten history so they're blameless. And once someone's that disconnected from reality, you can't predict what they'll do." We finished dinner and said goodbye in the parking lot. Malin hugged me, a real hug, not just a polite gesture. "Be careful," she said, "and call me if anything happens, day or night. I mean it." "I will." I drove home as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The city looked beautiful, peaceful, normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something I couldn't control or prevent, something that was going to force me to confront Ilyra one more time. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls, all from Saris. I called her back immediately, heart pounding. "Calder." Her voice was shaking. "Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for hours." "What happened?" "It's Ilyra. She left our parents' house last night. Took the car. My mother thought she was just going to the store, but she never came back. She's been gone for almost 12 hours now." "Where is she?" "We don't know. She's not answering her phone. My parents tried calling her friends, but she doesn't really have friends anymore. Not after everything that happened." "Have you called the police?" "They won't do anything. She's an adult. She hasn't threatened anyone. As far as they're concerned, she just went for a drive and will come back when she's ready." "But you don't think that's what happened?" "No, I think she's coming for you." The words hung in the air between us. "Why?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Because you're the only person left to blame. Her career is gone, her marriage is gone, her reputation is gone, and in her mind, it's all your fault. Not hers, not Ronan's, yours." Saris took a shaky breath. "Calder, I think she's going to try to confront you, and I don't think it's going to be calm or rational." "What do you want me to do?" "I don't know. Maybe go stay with someone. Don't go home tonight. Don't go to work. Just be somewhere she can't find you until we figure out where she is." "I'm not going to hide from her." "Calder, if she wants to talk, we'll talk. If she wants to yell at me, I'll let her yell. But I'm not going to run and hide like I did something wrong." "You're being stubborn." "Maybe, but I'm also tired. Tired of living in fear of what she might do. Tired of letting her control my life even though we're divorced. If she shows up, I'll deal with it." Saris was quiet for a long moment. "At least promise me you'll call the police if things get out of hand." "I promise." After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to take Saris's advice. Leave town for a few days. Let whatever was going to happen blow over without me being present. But another part of me, the part that had exposed the affair, that had refused to stay silent, that had demanded consequences, said that running now would be giving Ilyra exactly what she wanted. Power over me. Control over my choices. And I was done giving her power. I got dressed, made coffee, went to work like it was a normal day, and I waited. Ilyra showed up at my office at 2:30 in the afternoon. I was in a meeting with Helen and 2 clients from the Seattle account when my desk phone rang. I ignored it. 30 seconds later, it rang again. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "I need to take this." I stepped out into the hallway and answered. It was Rebecca, the receptionist from downstairs. "Calder, there's a woman here asking to see you. She says it's urgent. Says she's your—" Rebecca paused, lowering her voice. "Wife?" My stomach dropped. "I'll be right down." I took the elevator to the ground floor, trying to prepare myself for whatever was about to happen. The lobby was bright and modern. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, a large company logo on the wall behind the reception desk. Ilyra stood near the windows, arms crossed, staring out at the street. She looked terrible. Worse than at the divorce signing. Worse than I could have imagined. She'd lost more weight. Her clothes, jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, hung on her frame. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore no makeup. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept in days, but it was her eyes that struck me most. They were wide, manic, burning with something between rage and desperation. "Ilyra," I said quietly. "What are you doing here?" She turned to face me. "We need to talk. This isn't the place. I don't care where it is. We're talking. Now." Rebecca was watching from the reception desk, phone in hand, clearly ready to call security if needed. "Okay," I said calmly. "Let's go outside." I led Ilyra out of the building into the parking lot. It was a warm afternoon, the sun bright and unforgiving. A few employees were on their lunch breaks, sitting at outdoor tables, eating and talking. I walked to a quiet corner, away from everyone else. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to fix this." Her voice was shaking. "I want you to call Albrecht. Tell him you made it all up, that the videos were fake, that you manipulated everything because you were jealous of my success. Ilyra, I want you to admit what you did was wrong, that you destroyed my life out of spite, that you're the real villain here, not me. That's not going to happen." "Why not?" She stepped closer. "Why can't you just admit that you went too far, that public humiliation wasn't justice, it was cruelty, that you could have handled this privately instead of destroying everything I worked for? Because none of that is true. I showed people what you did. I didn't make anything up. I didn't manipulate anyone. I just refused to help you hide the truth." "The truth?" She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that echoed in the parking lot. "The truth is that you couldn't handle the fact that I was more successful than you, that I was going places while you were stuck in middle management, that I was ambitious and driven and you were comfortable. Is that what you tell yourself? That this was about my jealousy? What else would it be about? It was about you betraying me. It was about you sleeping with my best friend for 8 months and keeping videos of it like trophies. It was about you lying to my face every single day while you destroyed our marriage." "I made a mistake," she was shouting now, drawing stares from the employees on their lunch breaks. "I made one mistake, and you decided to ruin my entire life because of it." "It wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of choices. Every time you met Ronan at a hotel, every time you lied about working late, every time you recorded yourself with him and saved the videos, every time you came home and kissed me and pretended everything was fine, those were all choices. And you chose to destroy me instead of forgiving me. You didn't want forgiveness. You wanted me to stay quiet, to accept the betrayal, to let you continue climbing the corporate ladder while I played the supportive husband who didn't ask questions." She stared at me, breathing hard, her whole body trembling with rage and grief and something that looked like genuine pain. "I hate you. I know. You destroyed everything, my career, my reputation, my future, everything I worked for, everything I built, all gone because you couldn't just let it go." "Let it go?" I felt my own anger rising now. "You wanted me to let it go? To pretend I didn't see those videos? To act like you hadn't been betraying me for most of a year? People make mistakes, Calder. People have affairs. It happens, and most people deal with it privately. They get divorced quietly. They move on. They don't orchestrate public humiliations designed to destroy careers and reputations. Most people don't keep video evidence of their affairs and then act surprised when those videos come back to haunt them." She flinched like I'd struck her. That's not fair. None of this is fair. You betraying me wasn't fair. Me exposing you wasn't fair. The consequences you're facing aren't fair. But fairness stopped being relevant the moment you decided to cheat." I was weak. Her voice broke. I was stressed and overwhelmed, and Ronan was there, and he made me feel, I don't know, wanted, appreciated, like I mattered. "And I didn't make you feel that way? You were always fine with everything. With me working late, with me prioritizing my career, with us barely spending time together. You never complained. You never asked for more. So I thought, I thought it didn't matter to you." "Of course it mattered. I just didn't want to be the needy husband who held you back from your ambitions." "So you were miserable and didn't tell me?" "I wasn't miserable. I was lonely. There's a difference." We stood there looking at each other, and for the first time, I saw something beyond anger in her eyes. Something like regret, like genuine understanding of what she'd lost. "I really did love you once," she said quietly. "Before all of this, before the affair, when we first got married, that was real." "I know. I loved you too. But it wasn't enough. No, it wasn't." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Her shoulders sagged, all the fight draining out of her. "I came here to ask you to fix this, to call Albrecht, to tell everyone it was a misunderstanding, to give me my life back. I can't do that." "I know. I knew before I came. But I had to ask anyway, had to try one more time." "What will you do now?" "I don't know. My parents want me to move to Denver with them, start over in a new city where nobody knows what happened. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll change my name and pretend to be someone else. Someone who didn't destroy her own life through stupidity and weakness." "You don't have to pretend to be someone else. You just have to be honest about who you are and what you did. Accept it, own it, and then start building something new from that foundation." "You make it sound so easy." "It's not easy. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's the only way forward." She looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face. "This is the last time we'll see each other, isn't it?" "Probably." "Good. I don't think I could handle seeing you again after this. Every time I look at you, I see everything I lost, everything I destroyed. It's too much." "I understand." "Do you? Do you really understand what it's like to lose everything? To have people look at you with disgust? To know that every time someone Googles your name, they'll find videos of the worst mistake you ever made?" "No, I don't. But I understand what it's like to be betrayed by the person you trusted most, to have your entire reality shattered in an instant, to rebuild yourself from nothing." She nodded slowly. "I suppose we've both lost things." "Yeah, we have." She started walking toward the parking lot, then stopped and turned back one more time. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry. For the affair, for the lies, for everything. I know you don't believe me. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." "I believe you," I said. "And I'm sorry, too, for the public humiliation, for the way it all played out, for the fact that we couldn't figure out how to end this without so much damage. Maybe we were always going to end like this. Maybe it was inevitable. Maybe." She gave me one last look, sad, exhausted, defeated, then walked to her car. I watched her drive away, out of the parking lot, out of my life, out of the city where we'd built and destroyed everything together. And I felt empty. Not satisfied, not vindicated, not even relieved, just empty. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to have free hands. And now that the weight was gone, I didn't know what to do with myself. I stood there for another 5 minutes, just breathing, trying to process what had just happened. Then I went back inside, took the elevator to my floor, returned to the meeting with Helen and the Seattle clients. "Sorry about that," I said, sitting down. "Where were we?" Helen looked at me with concern. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine. Just personal business?" We continued the meeting, discussed shipping routes and delivery schedules and cost optimization strategies, normal work, normal problems, normal life. But everything had changed. The confrontation I'd been dreading was over. The conversation I'd needed to have was finished. And now, finally, I could start moving forward without looking over my shoulder. 2 days after Ilyra's visit to my office, I was leaving work when I noticed Ronan's car in the parking lot. The same beat-up sedan he'd been driving when he came to my apartment, parked in a spot with a clear view of the building's main entrance. I stopped walking, stood on the sidewalk, debating what to do. Part of me wanted to ignore it, pretend I hadn't seen him, get in my car and drive away. But another part, the part that was tired of running, tired of avoiding, tired of unfinished business, said this needed to end. I walked over to his car. Ronan was in the driver's seat, windows down, staring at nothing. He looked marginally better than the last time I'd seen him, cleaner, at least. But the hollowness in his eyes was still there. He noticed me approaching, but didn't seem surprised. "Ronan," I said, "what are you doing here?" "Waiting for you." "Why?" He didn't answer immediately, just stared straight ahead through the windshield. Malin signed the final divorce papers yesterday. It's official now. We're done. I'm sorry. Are you? He finally looked at me. You're the reason we got divorced. You're the reason I lost my job. You're the reason my life fell apart. Are you really sorry? I thought about lying, about offering some platitude about not wanting to hurt him, but we were past that now, past pretending. No, I said honestly. I'm not sorry. You betrayed me. You betrayed Malin. You made choices that destroyed multiple lives. I just made sure everyone knew about it. So you don't regret any of it. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that you and Ilyra made choices that forced this situation. But do I regret exposing the truth? No. Ronan nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. I've been sitting here for 3 hours trying to figure out what I wanted to say to you, trying to decide if I wanted to apologize again or threaten you or beg you to help me fix my life, but I couldn't decide, because none of it matters, does it? What do you mean? I mean, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, nothing changes. My marriage is over, my career is over, my reputation is destroyed, and there's no coming back from that. You could start over. New city, new career, new life. With what? I'm broke, unemployed, living in a motel because I can't afford anything better. Who's going to hire me? Who's going to give me a chance when a simple Google search shows videos of me sleeping with my best friend's wife? So, what are you going to do? He turned to look at me fully, and for the first time, I saw something new in his expression. Not anger, not desperation, resignation. I'm leaving, he said. Got a job offer in Alaska, construction work, probably manual labor in terrible conditions. But it's far enough away that nobody will know who I am or what I did. I can disappear, start over as someone else. When do you leave? Tomorrow morning, early flight. I'm driving to the airport from here. Does Malin know? I texted her. She didn't respond. Don't blame her. He looked back through the windshield. I came here to say goodbye, and to tell you that you were right. About what? About consequences. About choices. About all of it. He was quiet for a moment. I've spent the last 3 months trying to figure out how this was your fault, how you manipulated everything, how you were the villain. But the truth is, I did this to myself. I made the choices. I betrayed the people who trusted me, and you just made sure I couldn't pretend I hadn't. Ronan, let me finish. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. I've been angry at you for months, blamed you for everything. But sitting here, waiting for you, I realized something. You're not my enemy. You're just the person who held up a mirror and forced me to look at what I'd become. And I didn't like what I saw. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Ronan continued. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to understand that I know what I did was wrong, that I'm sorry, and that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to become someone better than who I was. I hope you do, I said, and I meant it. He started the engine. Take care of yourself, Calder, and thank you. For what? For not letting me get away with it, for forcing me to face what I did. I hated you for it. Part of me still does, but I needed it. He put the car in reverse. Goodbye. Goodbye, Ronan. I stepped back and watched him drive away, out of the parking lot, out of my life, out of the city where everything had fallen apart, and I felt the last piece of unfinished business finally close. I drove home in silence, thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months. The betrayal, the revenge, the confrontations, the divorce, the aftermath. All of it had led to this moment, this strange, hollow peace. The sun was setting as I pulled into my apartment complex, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and deep blue. The kind of sunset that would have been beautiful if I'd been in the right headspace to appreciate it. When I got to my apartment, I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, kicked off my shoes, and walked straight to the balcony. I sat down in the cheap plastic chair I'd bought at a hardware store, one of those purchases you make when you're starting over and need furniture but don't care about quality or aesthetics. Just something functional to fill the space. The city sprawled out below me, millions of lights beginning to glow as darkness fell, millions of people living their lives, going through their own betrayals and consequences and fresh starts. And somewhere in all that chaos, I was learning to exist again. My phone buzzed. A text from Saris. Saris. Heard Ilyra came to your office. You okay? Me? Yeah. We talked. It's over. Saris. Good. She's leaving too. Moving to Denver next week. Our parents are helping her get settled. Me, that's good. Fresh start for everyone. Saris, what about you? What's next for Calder Voss? I thought about that for a long time before responding. Me, I don't know yet, but I'm okay with that. Ceres, that's progress. Me, yeah, it is. Ceres, want to grab dinner this weekend? Catch up properly? Me, sure, that sounds good. Ceres, Saturday at 7? That Italian place you like? Me, perfect. See you then. I set the phone down and leaned back in the chair, staring up at the darkening sky. Stars were starting to appear. Not many, the city lights drowned out most of them, but a few bright ones managed to push through the light pollution. I thought about the past year, about that Tuesday when I'd turned 36 and discovered my wife's betrayal, about the cold, calculated planning that had followed, about the promotion event where everything had exploded, about the confrontations and conversations and slow dissolution of everything I'd built, about standing here now, alone, in an apartment that was mine and nobody else's, with a future that was completely undefined. It should have felt terrifying. All that uncertainty, all that empty space where my marriage and friendships used to be. But instead, it felt liberating. For the first time in years, maybe in my entire adult life, I didn't have to compromise, didn't have to consider someone else's needs or wants or career ambitions, didn't have to suppress my own feelings to keep the peace. I could just be. Be angry when I felt angry, be sad when I felt sad, be relieved when I felt relieved, without having to explain or justify or moderate my emotions for someone else's comfort. It was strange, uncomfortable, but also freeing. My phone buzzed again. This time, Malin. Malin. Saris told me what happened. You doing okay? Me? Better than expected. Ilyra and Ronan are both leaving, moving on with their lives. Finally feels like it's actually over. Malin. That's good, really good. Means you can start moving on too. Me, working on it. Malin. Proud of you. I know it wasn't easy. Me, thanks. For everything. The advice, the support, just thanks. Malin. That's what survivors do. We help each other. Stay strong. Me. You too. I put the phone away and sat in the growing darkness, watching the city lights multiply as night fully settled in. Tomorrow, I'd go to work. Come home. Continue building this new life one small decision at a time. Maybe I'd start dating again eventually. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'd make new friends who didn't know about the affair or the revenge or any of it. Maybe I'd stay relatively isolated, preferring solitude to the risk of trusting people again. I didn't know, and for the first time, I was okay with not knowing. The revenge was complete. The consequences had been delivered, the confrontations were finished. Everyone had moved on to their respective futures. Ilyra to Denver, Ronan to Alaska, Malin to Portland, Saris trying to repair her family relationships. And me? I was here, in this apartment, in this city, in this moment, just existing, just breathing, just learning how to be Calder Voss without any of the definitions that used to attach to my name. Not someone's husband, not someone's friend, not someone defined by betrayal or revenge or any of the labels that had clung to me over the past year. Just Calder. The night air was cool. A breeze came through the balcony, carrying with it the smell of someone grilling nearby, the distant sound of traffic, the ordinary sounds of life continuing around me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. In, out, simple, basic, fundamental. I was alive. I had survived. I was still here. And that was enough. For tonight, that was more than enough. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. New challenges, new decisions, new opportunities to mess up or succeed or just exist somewhere in between. But tonight, I was just going to sit here. In the dark, in the quiet, in the peace of knowing it was finally over. The worst had passed. The consequences had been delivered. The truth had come out. And now, finally, I could stop looking backward and start looking forward. I didn't know what I'd find there. Didn't know if I'd ever trust someone enough to try again. Didn't know if the scars would fade or become permanent reminders of what I'd survived. But for the first time since my 36th birthday, I was curious to find out. And curiosity felt like hope. And hope felt like enough. I finished my beer, stood up, and walked back inside my apartment. Tomorrow, I'd start building whatever came next. Tonight, I'd just exist in the quiet. In the peace of knowing it was finally over. In the strange, unexpected comfort of starting over.